Chapter 537. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. Gu Jiao thought there was only one man in black. Who would have thought there were two more hiding in the dark? Mo Chenxue was already severely injured, and this attack with all her strength had almost drained her of all her energy. The moment the three men in black fell from above, she couldn't hold on any longer. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. Gu Jiao bent down and carried Mo Chenxue back to the room. The clinic's manservant would clean up the place. Mo Chenxue was covered in snow. The wound on her leg was slightly torn. Blood seeped out and dyed her nightgown red. Gu Jiao took off her clothes and stuffed them under the blanket. Then, she opened the closet door and found a clean set of nightgown for her to change into. In a daze, Mo Chenxue felt someone touch her body. Her face turned pale and she grabbed the other person's hand. "It's me," Gu Jiao said. Mo Chenxue let go of her hand. She leaned her head against Gu Jiao's chest and fell into a deep sleep. In fact, several groups of people had already come to the clinic. However, Gu Jiao clearly felt that Mo Chenxue's mood had changed. Maybe it was because tonight was especially serious. In the latter half of the night, Mo Chenxue even had nightmares. She was afraid. Her face was pale and her body trembled slightly. It was as if she had fallen into an endless nightmare. Mo Chenxue, Mo Chenxue. Gu Jiao tried to wake her up. Mo Chenxue opened her eyes and looked at Gu Jiao in fear. She did not know if she was still in a dream. She did not respond and only held Gu Jiao's hand tightly, like a drowning person holding onto the last piece of driftwood. "Are you so scared?" Gu Jiao murmured. She didn't pull her hand back. Gu Jiao took the time to go back to Clear Water Alley. Little Jing Kong hadn't seen Gu Jiao for a few days. He felt wronged and teared up. "Jiao Jiao." He rushed over and hugged Gu Jiao. Although he was 5 years old, he looked just 1 year younger than his peers. Gu Jiao easily lifted him up. Little Jing Kong sat in Gu Jiao's arms and shook his little head. "Jiao Jiao, is the medical center done?" Little Jing Kong asked. "Not yet." Gu Jiao entered the room and greeted Yao Shi. Yao Shi had just finished bathing Gu Xiaobao. "You're back. There's no need to go to the clinic, right?" Yao Shi warmly asked. "We still have to go over tonight," Gu Jiao said. Little Jing Kong thought for a while and got down from Gu Jiao's arms. He moved a chair for Gu Jiao and said, "Jiao Jiao is tired. Jiao Jiao, take a seat." Gu Xiaobao, "Wow." Yao Shi heard her son's voice and laughed. Did Xiaobao speak? Does Xiaobao want sister to sit down? Gu Xiaobao widened his big round eyes and looked at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao walked over and poked Gu Xiaobao's face. Gu Xiaobao chuckled. A 3-month-old child could laugh, but Gu Xiaobao was a baby who did not cry, make a fuss, or like to laugh. Other than a chuckle on the day he turned 3 months old, he did not make a sound after that. Gu Jiao found it amusing and gently poked his chubby little face again. Gu Xiaobao laughed again. Gu Jiao poked him again and Gu Xiaobao laughed again. Little Jing Kong clapped his hands excitedly and jumped up and down. "Younger brother is laughing. Younger brother is laughing." At this moment, Marquis Gu came over from the newly renovated residence. It snowed heavily a few days ago and the finishing work was delayed. Now that the weather was better, he led the workmen from the Ministry of Works to rush the work day and night. Today, he was here to transport materials and took a detour to see his wife and son. When he reached the door, he heard little Jing Kong's voice. He held his breath and really heard his son's laughter. His son knew how to laugh. Marquis Gu walked into the house in high spirits. "Son, father is here to see you." He did not look at Gu Jiao and went straight to his wife, Yao Shi, and carried Gu Xiaobao over with fatherly love. Then, Gu Xiaobao stopped laughing. Marquis Gu teased him. "Son, give father a smile." Under his father's expectant gaze, Gu Xiaobao calmly took out his little finger, put it in his mouth, and fell asleep in a second. Marquis Gu. Mo Chenxue slept until the afternoon. Midway, Dr. Tong came to check on her. He took a pulse and checked on her wound. Everything was fine. Because of the accident at Xianle House, the tea house reopened early. There were more people on the streets and more headaches, fevers, and drunkenness. Today, a wave of drunkards and injured patients came to the clinic. There were not many doctors and they could not take care of them all. However, this had nothing to do with Mo Chenxue. She did not need any additional treatment and only needed to quietly recuperate in the room. A maid brought food over. Mo Chenxue ate a little. Her leg was injured and her ribs were broken. She could not walk and could only lie on the bed in boredom. She sat on the bed and clutched the handkerchief in her hand. She snorted, "Where did the little liar go?" Suddenly, a figure flashed through the door. Mo Chenxue's eyes flashed with vigilance. "Who is it?" The unlatched door was gently pushed open from the outside. First, an exquisite embroidered fan reached in from the crack of the door. Then, the owner of the fan walked in with light steps. It was a pair of brand new pink lotus embroidered shoes. They were made of real gold and were extremely expensive. In the whole capital, only the courtesans of Xianle House could afford to wear such shoes. The vigilance in Mo Chenxue's eyes dissipated and was replaced by a faint disgust. "What are you doing here?" Mo Chenxue asked coldly. Hua Xiao smiled brightly. "I'm here to see my elder sister." Hua Xiao closed the door behind her and walked toward Mo Chenxue's bedside. Mo Chenxue said with disdain, "Who is your elder sister? Don't randomly recognize relatives here." "Oh." Hua Xiao covered half of her face with the fan and laughed. "We are all girls in the brothel. Who is more noble than who? Don't make it sound like your elder sister is a daughter of a good family." Mo Chenxue impatiently said, "If you have something to say, say it quickly." Hua Xiao laughed. "I haven't seen you for a few days, but you are still so vulgar. Does that little Gongzi also know your character? Is it hard for you to pretend in front of him? Ah, I forgot, he is not a little Gongzi, but a little girl. Elder sister, your infatuation has been misplaced." Mo Chenxue looked at her coldly. "Hua Xiao, do you have nothing to do, so you came to tell me this?" Hua Xiao removed the round fan in front of her face, revealing an innocent look. "Of course not, I came to remind elder sister, don't forget your identity, don't be a traitor of Immortal Music House." Mo Chenxue turned her face and said lightly, "I didn't." Hua Xiao sneered and took out 3 silver needles from her arms. "So you didn't kill those 3 people? These silver needles are made by imitating the Tang Sex Tang flower needle. In the capital, except for you, it seems that no one else uses this kind of silver needle." Mo Chenxue's hand holding the handkerchief tightened and said without changing her expression, "I don't need to explain to you what I do." Hua Xiao threw the 3 silver needles on Mo Chenxue's quilt. "Young master asked me to come." Mo Chenxue's eyes moved slightly, and she said seriously, "I killed those 3 people in order to gain her trust." Hua Xiao sat down on the edge of Mo Chenxue's bed and looked into Mo Chenxue's eyes with a smile. "She doesn't trust you enough?" Mo Chenxue blinked lightly and looked up to meet Hua Xiao's eyes. "Not enough, I didn't have a chance." Hua Xiao smiled, stood up and went to the wardrobe. She opened the door and brushed Gu Jiao's clothes with her fingertips. "You slept in the same room and didn't have a chance? Who are you fooling? Then why don't you do it?" Mo Chenxue asked. Hua Xiao closed the wardrobe door. "I don't have sister's luck. Casually hooking up with a young master can become a big fish." Mo Chenxue glanced at her and said, "It's good that you know you don't have the ability. Go back and tell young master that I will kill her. But I need time. 3 days." Hua Xiao stretched out 3 fingers. Mo Chenxue looked at Hua Xiao coldly. Hua Xiao smiled charmingly. "Young master only wanted to give you 1 day, but I fought for 2 more days for sister. Sister, don't waste your sister's kindness." "Hua Xiao." Mo Chenxue called out to Hua Xiao who had turned and walked out. Hua Xiao stopped and looked back with a smile. Sister, is there anything else? Mo Chenxue suddenly shot out a silk thread and wrapped it around Hua Xiao's foot. Then she pulled it coldly and the silk thread twisted off the embroidered shoes on Hua Xiao's foot. Mo Chenxue was not polite to Hua Xiao at all. If Hua Xiao's martial arts were not good, she would have fallen to the ground. Hua Xiao's face sank and she gritted her teeth. Mo Chenxue. Mo Chenxue said indifferently, "Get out." The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1089822263. HTML Genius, remember the address of this site. www.zhbqg.com. Bikugu mobile version reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 538. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel was also updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels were read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online here. Clearwater Alley. Being ignored by his son, Marquis Gu felt a little embarrassed. He cleared his throat and placed his sleeping son back into Yao She's arms. Other than visiting the Yao family and his son, he had come today for another matter: Gu Jinyu's marriage. Gu Jinyu and Royal Prince were originally scheduled to get married before the new year. Who would have thought that other than the war, the commoners' marriages were not restricted? However, Royal Prince was an official of the court and Gu Jinyu was the daughter of a marquis. The two of them could not get married during a time of national crisis. Therefore, it was pushed back to a year later. It's next month. Marquis Gu said to Yao She, "Jinyu is your daughter. How can a daughter get married without her mother by her side? Why don't you follow me back to my residence for a few days and wait for Jinyu to get married?" The conflict between Yao She and the Marquis Fu mainly came from the fact that everyone in the Marquis Fu did not welcome her. Old Madame Gu was the leader, followed by Gu Chongqing and the other two. As for the servants, they did not need to care too much. Anyway, they did not dare to cause trouble in front of Yao She. Now that all sorts of misunderstandings had been resolved, the Gu brothers no longer had any resentment towards Yao She. Marquis Gu felt that it was time to bring Yao She back to live. Yao She was a little hesitant. She knew that old Madame Gu still didn't want to see her son, who had appeared out of nowhere, and it was impossible for them to have no grudges between them. Moreover, even if she went back, Gu Yan and Gu Jiao would not go back with her. She couldn't bear to part with her children, and she also couldn't bear to part with this large family in Jadewater Lane. But Master Ho was right. Jinyu was also her daughter. Back then, Gu Sanlang and his wife treated Jiao Jiao like a treasure. What reason did she have to treat Jinyu harshly? Mother's health hasn't been good recently. She can't manage the household. Marquis Gu looked at her and said. Yao She looked at Gu Jiao, who was fixing Kuju's flirtatious eyes in the inner courtyard, and said to Marquis Gu, "You've been here for so long. Why don't you talk to Jiao Jiao?" Marquis Gu scoffed. "She's the one who doesn't want to talk to me. I've been here for so long. Have you heard her call me father?" Yao She said, "Jiao Jiao is just not used to it. Moreover, do you treat Jiao Jiao like a father?" Marquis Gu hesitated. Yao She continued, "You even used a whip to hit her." "That's..." Marquis Gu coughed guiltily. "How long has it been? Do you still remember?" "I didn't know that she was our daughter and thought that she wanted to harm you." At the mention of this matter, Marquis Gu became angry. He had only whipped that girl once, and that girl bore a grudge to such an extent, opposing him at every turn. He even kidnapped his wife and son. 2 sons. Was it because he didn't act like a father? She was clearly the one who didn't act like a daughter. Can't she learn from Jean Yu, gentle and generous, delicate and cute? That's how the daughter of a marquis should be. Marquis Gu rolled his eyes and said, "If that girl was half as sensible as Jean Yu, I wouldn't have doted on her so much." Yao Shi carried the sleeping Gu Xiaobao and stood up, looking at him with a frown. "You admit that you don't dote on Jiao Jiao?" "No. Marquis Gu was dazed. How could he speak so quickly? Also, how could Madame's angle be so tricky? Yao Shi trembled with anger. "So when you said that you dote on Jiao Jiao, you were lying to me." Marquis Gu panicked and quickly said, "I didn't lie to you. I'm telling the truth. I dote on Jiao Jiao. I dote on her the most." Yao Shi did not want to wake up her sleeping son, so she suppressed her anger and asked, "Then let me ask you, what does Jiao Jiao like to eat the most?" Marquis Gu opened his mouth. How could he know what that girl liked to eat the most? "You can't even answer this, yet you say that you dote on Jiao Jiao." Yao Shi said this and carried Gu Xiaobao away without looking back. Marquis Gu. Sigh. Gu Yan and Gu Xiaoshan had gone to Master Lu's place in the southern wing and were not at home. Yao Shi also ignored him. Marquis Gu rubbed his nose resentfully. Every strand of hair on his body spoke of the awkwardness in his heart. He was hesitating whether he should go back first. At this moment, little Jing Kong walked over. Little Jing Kong was Gu Jiao Jiao's little tail. Wherever Gu Jiao went, he would go. But now, he did not stick to Gu Jiao. Marquis Gu was quite surprised. He looked at this little kid who seemed to still be so small. For once, he asked in a pleasant tone, "Why are you here?" Little Jing Kong did not say anything. He walked to the front door cutely and stood on the doorstep. With his hands behind his back, he blinked and looked at Marquis Gu. Marquis Gu's mouth twitched. "Are you chasing me away?" Little Jing Kong shook his head. "Jiao Jiao said that we must be polite children. Those who come are guests. We can't chase them away just because they don't welcome them. That's the adults' business. We just need to be obedient as children." Marquis Gu, who was rejected everywhere, finally left with his head covered in dirt. Gu Jiao fixed little Jing Kong's romantic eyes. Little Jing Kong could play Kuju happily again. "Thank you, Jiao Jiao." Little Jing Kong stood under the romantic eyes and said cutely. Gu Jiao curved her lips and handed him the kuju on the stone table. "Do you want to finish?" "Jiao Jiao, will you play with me?" Little Jing Kong asked. "Okay." Gu Jiao nodded. Gu Jiao played with little Jing Kong for a while. When the old chancellor came back to check on little Jing Kong's homework, he left reluctantly. Gu Jiao went to the clinic. She brought some candied fruits and hawthorn cakes made by the young master. When she entered the room, Amo Chenxue was leaning against the bed and sulking. When she saw her, she snorted coldly and rolled her eyes. She turned her body sideways and showed Gu Jiao the back of her head. Gu Jiao had always been right about people and not about things. She could indulge the people she accepted to do anything. Amo Chenxue's little temper was like a drizzle in her eyes, the kind that wouldn't even get her clothes wet. "How do you feel today? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Dr. Gu asked routinely. Amo Chenxue grabbed the handkerchief and said angrily, "Not good. I feel uncomfortable everywhere." Gu Jiao put the snacks on the bedside table and reached out to check her pulse. "Really? Let me see." Amo Chenxue pulled back her hand. "I won't show you, you little liar." She was so lively. It seemed that she had nothing to do in the afternoon. Gu Jiao was a doctor, so she naturally had to care about the patient's diet. She asked the maid and found that Amo Chenxue didn't eat much. There were 2 dishes and 1 soup, and she only ate 1 or 2 mouthfuls. Gu Jiao opened the food box and took out a stack of glittering hawthorn cakes, saying, "This is my granduncle's hawthorn cake. Try it." When one person cared about another, the focus would become very strange. Amo Chenxue sneered, "Your grandfather doesn't have a sister. How can you have a young master?" Gu Jiao paused and looked at her. You investigated me. Mo Chenchue's eyes flashed. Oh no, she spilled the beans. Mo Chenchue was saved by Gu Jiao and brought back to Immortal Music House. Only then did she recognize Gu Jiao as the mute youth who had taken liberties with her. Moreover, Gu Jiao had never said who she was or who her grandfather was. In other words, before she recognized Gu Jiao, she, Mo Chenchue, had investigated the daughter of Marquis Ding and Fu. This was very thought-provoking. Why did Mo Chenchue investigate her? Mo Chenchue composed herself and said in a normal tone, "Is there a need to investigate this? The fact that the daughter of Marquis Ding and Fu works as a doctor in the medical hall has long been known by everyone." Gu Jiao looked at her without blinking. "So you are so sure that I am that doctor?" Mo Chenchue almost couldn't stand her seemingly casual but hidden sharp gaze. "Isn't your surname Gu?" Gu Jiao indifferently placed the hawthorn cake in Mo Chenchue's hand. "That's true." Mo Chenchue secretly let out a sigh of relief. Luckily she was smart. After Gu Jiao gave the cake to Mo Chenchue, she went out to get medicine for Mo Chenchue. Consolidating one's foundation required proper Chinese medicine. After she left, Mo Chenchue took out a packet of medicinal powder from her chest and sprinkled it on a piece of hawthorn cake. She wiped away the excess medicinal powder and a thin layer blended in with the sugar on the hawthorn cake. Not the slightest bit of it could be seen. When Gu Jiao returned to the room with a bowl of steaming hot medicine, Mo Chenchue was sitting coldly at the head of the bed. On the bedside table next to her was a plate of hawthorn cake. She coldly snorted and said, "What kind of rubbish taste is this? Did your great-aunt make it? If you don't want to deal with me, just say it. There's no need to buy things from a street stall to fool me. Does it not taste good?" Gu Jiao asked strangely. Mo Chenchue angrily said, "It tastes terrible. If you don't believe me, try one yourself." Gu Jiao picked up the topmost piece of hawthorn cake. Mo Chenchue grabbed her hand and asked, "Aren't you afraid that I'll poison you?" Gu Jiao asked, "Will you?" Mo Chenchue slowly let go of her hand and said coldly, "Yes. Of course I will. I really want to poison you, you little liar." Gu Jiao tasted the hawthorn cake in her hand and frowned. "Oh, it seems a little too sour. I took the wrong one. This is for my great-aunt. Dr. Gu. There's a patient here who fainted." Xiao Sanzi's voice came from outside the courtyard. "Coming." Gu Jiao put down the piece of hawthorn cake and turned to leave the room. Mo Chenchue looked at the piece of hawthorn cake that Gu Jiao had taken a bite of, then looked at the bird and half of the cake on the snow outside the window. She angrily kicked her feet under the quilt. Next time I won't be soft-hearted. If I'm soft-hearted again, I'll write my name upside down." Digression. Let me guess, the comment section is full of, "Hello, Shui Qianma, 2333. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that you can't find online are available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1089811012. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 539. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that cannot be found online are all available here. On the other side, the Minister of Justice took Xiao Hang out of the city to investigate a case that very night. Xiao Hang was only a scribe in the Ministry of Justice. Logically speaking, he should not be involved in the investigation, but Minister Xing had originally wanted him because of his ability to handle cases. The scribe position was just a cover. The Minister of Justice was surnamed Xing, and his name was Xuan. This name did not sound like someone who could be a minister, but Xing Xuan had done it. Xing Xuan was one of the few ministers of the 6 ministries who had come from a humble background. At the beginning, he had suffered a lot before finally entering the Ministry of Justice. Because he did not have the support of his family, it was much more difficult for him to rise up the ranks than for those nobles and officials. He had been sent out twice. The first time was because he had offended someone, and the second time was because he had offended someone he should not have offended. But perhaps his life was really tough, for he had managed to survive. His character was upright, and his family style was also upright. He met the emperor's standards for using people. Of course, the prerequisite was that he could be noticed by the emperor. Speaking of which, it was actually a coincidence. The second time I was sent out was in a small county near Fengdu Mountain. I handled a case, and the victim was someone from the princess's estate, Minister Xing said to Xiao Hang in the carriage. Xiao Hang did not know about this. Before he left the capital, he had not thought that he would enter the 6 ministries, so he had not paid special attention to the movements of the 6 ministries. Princess Xinyang had monitored the movements of the court, so he had occasionally heard of some officials' weakness. For example, the account book of the Imperial College's Sai accepting bribes. But it was clear that Minister of Justice was not in the list of weaknesses. He was an honest and upright official. As the carriage bumped along the rugged path, the two of them couldn't help but sway a little. Minister Xing swayed as he continued. To be honest, he was just an insignificant servant who was humiliated by a local squire. That squire had a bit of a relationship with the capital. Do you know what someone else would have done? Xiao Hang understood that he was not asking him a question. As expected, Minister Xing continued, sometimes, the lives of the common people are worthless, and the lives of the servants are worthless as well. At that time, Princess Xinyang asked me, County Magistrate Xing, do you dare to investigate this case? Xiao Hang could almost imagine Princess Xinyang's expression at that time. I asked the princess, I've checked and something happened. Can the princess protect my family? The princess said, I can't. Your case isn't for me to investigate. That's your duty. You can choose to be a good official or a corrupt official. You'll have to bear the consequences. So unreasonable. I thought. Actually, when he thought about it now, he still felt that the princess was too cold-hearted. She was a princess. Wasn't it easy for her to protect a few people? She's putting me on the fire and not giving my family a way out. But Lu Lang, the world is like this. From the day I chose to be an official, I sent my family's fate down an unpredictable path. No one forced me. It was all my own choice. The case spread to the capital. Did you know that the squire was related to the Duke Luo's family? I almost died, but the heavens didn't want me to die. His Majesty heard about this case and transferred me back to the capital. My life was saved. She helped you, Xiao Hang suddenly said. What? Minister Xing looked at Xiao Hang in confusion. Xiao Hang said, Princess Xinyang, she helped you. Minister Xing was stunned. Xiao Hang brushed his wide sleeves. Otherwise, why would His Majesty hear about your case and suddenly transfer you back to the capital? There are so many murder cases in the world. This? Minister Xing couldn't accept such a huge shock. To be honest, it wasn't that he hadn't thought of this possibility. However, he had seen Princess Xinyang several times after the incident, and she didn't want him to thank her at all. In fact, she didn't even talk to him. How could she do a good deed without leaving a name? What did Princess Xinyang want? Because he was a good official? Because of his face? It was rumored that Princess Xinyang had many handsome men. Minister Xing touched his coarse face. Speaking of which, he was indeed the most handsome man in their county town once upon a time. Sir, we're here. The driver stopped the carriage. Minister Xing had said all this to Xiao Hang in the carriage because he sensed that this matter wasn't simple. The power behind it might be beyond their imagination. He was worried that Xiao Hang wouldn't dare to investigate further, so he wanted to use his own deeds to influence Xiao Hang and make him determined to be a good official who didn't fear power. Even if he didn't have anyone to protect him, he would definitely be able to soar to a high position. However, it seemed that he had failed. Cough cough. Minister Xing cleared his throat. Let's go. This was the residence of the third witness they had found. Unfortunately, they didn't find anything. The witness hadn't returned home for the past few days. Assistant Minister Li's case could be said to be both simple and complicated. Assistant Minister Li had left the capital to visit his concubine and concubine's son. Along the way, he had encountered a group of robbers. Assistant Minister Li's accompanying bodyguards had promptly chased the robbers away. 2 of the robbers had seriously resisted and injured Assistant Minister Li. The bodyguards had no choice but to kill them. However, who would have thought that when they were sent to the local yamen, one of the victims turned out to be a good citizen. The family of the good citizen came to the door and said that Assistant Minister Li had killed their son. The identities of the rest of the robbers were also ascertained. Their eyewitnesses at the time were not at home. Based on Minister Xing's many years of experience in handling cases, this was a premeditated framing. The goal wasn't Assistant Minister Li, but the case in his hands. Xiao Hang was a trustworthy person. Minister Xing didn't beat around the bush in front of him. The Xianle House case is of great importance. The capital government and the Ministry of Justice are investigating this case. Xiao Hang nodded and said, "Then why are the people from the capital government fine?" Minister Xing thoughtfully said, "There's only one possibility. The capital government had already been bribed." Xiao Hang also guessed this possibility. He sternly said, "If Assistant Minister Li continues to investigate, there will be danger." "It's your danger, Darren." Assistant Minister Li was only following orders. The decision was in Minister Xing's hands. Therefore, the other party was actually targeting Minister Xing. The above was a guess based on the clues they currently had. Whether this was the case or not still needed to be confirmed later. Since they couldn't find a witness, Minister Xing took Xiao Hang to the carriage to return to the capital. The carriage hadn't gone far when an arrow shot into their carriage and nailed itself to the wall of the carriage between Xiao Hang and Minister Xing. Because the force was too great, the arrow had already pierced into the wall. The tail of the arrow was still shaking violently. It could be seen that if this arrow had shot into either of them, it would have killed them instantly. Minister Xing's eyes turned cold. Assassinate an official of the imperial court? Fortunately, I was already prepared. After he finished speaking, he took out a bone whistle and blew it forcefully. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3 rings passed. The expert who should have appeared didn't appear. Minister Xing was stunned. What's going on? This official spent a lot of money to buy an expert from the Jianghu. He's gone. Xiao Hang lightly said. It can't be. Minister Xing's eyes widened. Another arrow shot in. This time, it hit Minister Xing's crotch. Minister Xing only felt that his little minister was a bit cold. Get out of the carriage, Xiao Heng said. Minister Xing lifted the curtain and grabbed Xiao Heng's hand before jumping out of the carriage with him. Just as the 2 of them fell to the ground, a whole row of arrows covered the sky and covered the earth, and shot the carriage into a sieve. Minister Xing held his breath. If he and Xiao Lulang hadn't jumped out of the carriage in time, they would have become sieves by now. Too hateful. Who did this? Don't let this official find out. Otherwise, this official will definitely find out who did this. Whoosh! Another arrow was shot, and it almost hit Minister Xing's butt. Ah! Minister Xing suddenly jumped, grabbed Xiao Heng's hand, and ran. At first, Xiao Heng thought that the group of people came for Minister Xing. However, when they entered a forest and Minister Xing fell down the hill, the group of people didn't chase after Minister Xing. Instead, they attacked Xiao Heng. Xiao Heng finally understood that shooting Minister Xing was a mistake. Their target was him from the start. They didn't want to use Assistant Minister Li's case to warn Minister Xing to stop. They wanted to use Minister Xing to take him out of the capital to investigate the case and kill him on the way. What a good plan. It seemed that Mo Qianxue's case was a trap from the start. Xiao Hang looked at the 5 men in black approaching him and asked coldly, "Who is your master?" The leader of the men in black said coldly, "You're going to die anyway. What's the use of knowing our master?" Xiao Hang said calmly, "You have to let me know before I die." The leader of the men in black sneered. "Fine, I'll tell you. The person who wants to kill you is our young master." Xiao Heng looked at him coldly. "Who is your young master?" Digression. Third watch, it slipped out again. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more fully. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/10897595. HTML Genius memorized this website's address. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 540. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Big brother, don't talk nonsense with him. He's going to die anyway. What's the point of knowing so much? That's true. This guy doesn't deserve to know young master's name. The leader of the black-clothed men smiled and said to the black-clothed men beside him, "Kill this brat. Do it cleanly. Big brother, don't worry. We know what to do. This brat doesn't know martial arts. We have the final say on how to kill him." Several people roared with laughter as they disdainfully pressed towards Xiao Hang. In front of Xiao Hang were the black-clothed men and behind him was a huge slope. He had 2 choices. One was to be killed by them, and the other was to jump down the slope and die. Jump. One of the black-clothed men smiled provocatively. This height was nothing to martial artists, but it was a death sentence for a Hanlin official. They didn't believe that Xiao Hang would jump. In fact, Xiao Hang didn't jump. The few of them sneered as they approached Xiao Hang. When they were about 10 steps away, Xiao Hang suddenly fished out something from his money pouch and threw it at the few people's feet. They thought it was a hidden weapon and hurriedly took a step back. Unfortunately, it was useless to take a step back. The black thing exploded after it landed on the ground. Several people were blasted into a sorry state. The leader of the black-clothed men was startled. When he reacted and was about to attack Xiao Hang was 1 step faster and took out the remaining black fire pearls. Not good. Bang. He didn't have time to escape and was knocked out by a series of black fire pearls. Gu Jiao mixed a small amount of knockout drug into Xiao Heng's black fire pearls. The power of the explosion was not as strong as the pure black fire pearls, but it could quickly knock out the opponent. After knocking out the group of people, Xiao Hang quickly left and went down the small path to find Xing Shongshu. Minister Xing had just fallen down the hill. The place where he fell was not so high. If he was lucky, he would not die. When Xiao Hang found him, his arm was dislocated, but he could still walk. Xiao Hang helped him up, looked around, found a direction, and said, "Let's go." Minister Xing covered his dislocated arm and cursed in pain. "What kind of people are they?" "I'm not sure," Xiao Heng said. Xing Shongshu said angrily, Good. How dare he set his sights on this official? When we return to the capital, this official will investigate his background." His courage was commendable. Minister Xing said earnestly, "Lu Lang, don't be scared. As officials of the imperial court, how can we not encounter any problems? Don't back out just because of this little disturbance." Xiao Hang supported him and accurately identified the direction of the capital. "Yes, he won't. What was this little disturbance? What's more, they were targeting him. It had nothing to do with him being an official of the imperial court. They had set up such a situation to deal with him. From the beginning of the murder case at Immortal Music House, this game had started. All of them were chess pieces on the chessboard. He just didn't know who the young master was, and what relationship did he have with Immortal Music House. Xiao Hang said, "Darren, after returning to the capital, I want to go to Immortal Music House again." "Okay. I'll listen to you. I also feel that there's something wrong with this Immortal Music House." Minister Xing was so angry that he cursed. Regarding the background of Immortal Music House, the people in the capital had many guesses. Unfortunately, no one had gotten a handle on Immortal Music House. It was not good to close it down or destroy it. Moreover, so what if they destroyed Immortal Music House? Was the main point Immortal Music House? It was the people behind Immortal Music House. Minister Xing had a toothache. After the two walked for a while, Minister Xing suddenly asked, "That's right, I seem to have heard a strange sound. Are you okay?" After Minister Xing fell down, he was dizzy for a while. In addition, he was far away, so he couldn't hear clearly. He didn't know if he had misheard or what happened. "I'm fine." Xiao Hung didn't mention the gunpowder. Only Yen country had gunpowder. God knows how Gu Jiao had it. It was better to have less trouble. Since Minister Xing wasn't sure, then he must have misheard. "That's right, what about that group of people?" Minister Xing asked again. Xiao Hang said, "We've shaken them off for the time being, but they may catch up in a while. We have to leave as soon as possible." "Ah, but where is this?" Minister Xing was completely lost. Xiao Hang pointed to the front and said, "Go east for another li and you'll reach Xiaohe village. After passing through the village, there'll be a relay station. We'll hire a carriage there." "Oh." Minister Xing nodded blankly. He vaguely felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't figure out what it was. That group of people still caught up with them, but Xiao Hang was too familiar with the terrain around the capital. He was able to shake them off no matter what. After the carriage passed through the city gates, Minister Xing suddenly realized something. Aren't you from Yuzhou? How come you're more familiar with the capital than me? Those who didn't know would think that you grew up in the capital." That group of people didn't seem to want to make a move in the capital. After entering the capital, the two's journey was much smoother. They didn't have to hide anymore and walked faster. Minister Xing was injured, so Xiao Hang sent him to the Miracle Hall. "Lu Lang is here." The second master smiled and greeted him. "You're here to look for Xiao Gu, right? She's treating a patient. She'll be fine in a while." Xiao Hang nodded and turned to introduce him to the second master. "This is Lord Xing. His arm is injured. I'll have to trouble you to find a doctor to treat him." Minister Xing was wearing an official's robe. Although the second master didn't recognize which yamen he was from, he could tell that he was a third-rank official. The second master hurriedly cupped his hands. "My apologies, my lord. Please come this way. I'll go get a doctor for you." The second master invited Minister Xing to a room upstairs. Xiao Hang went to Gu Jiao's courtyard. Xiao Hang knew that there was a female patient living in the courtyard. He never interfered with Gu Jiao's medical practice, but he didn't know that the patient had moved into Gu Jiao's room. He pushed the door open and entered. He was caught off guard and bumped into the other party. After Gu Jiao left, Mo Chenxue tried to sneak off the bed. She had just walked to the table when Xiao Hang came in. Xiao Hang saw her, and she saw Xiao Hang. She was wearing Gu Jiao's clothes. She was dressed neatly, without any disrespect or inconvenience. However, she still caught him off guard. Her walking posture was different from normal people. Xiao Hang quickly realized that she was a patient. He quickly looked away, nodded slightly, and turned to leave. At that moment, Mo Chenxue called out to him. "Stop." Xiao Heng paused. He hesitated and looked at Mo Chenxue. In all fairness, Mo Chenxue was beautiful. It was hard to find a woman in the capital who was more beautiful than her. Even the second master and the doctors in the clinic were shocked speechless when they saw Mo Chenchue's clean face for the first time. Xiao Hang was very calm. There was no surprise or admiration in his eyes. It was purely the look of someone looking at a stranger. It was no different from looking at a commoner on the street. Mo Chenxue frowned. "Is this your reaction when you see me?" Xiao Hang was confused. What was wrong with his reaction? What kind of reaction did she think he would have when he saw her? Xiao Hang looked at Mo Chenxue, puzzled. Mo Chenxue endured the pain of her wound and moved step by step toward Xiao Hang. When she was 3 steps away from Xiao Hang, he unconsciously took a step back. It was obvious that he wanted to avoid suspicion. Mo Chenxue frowned even more. "What's wrong with you?" If the first sentence made Xiao Hang confused, the second sentence made Xiao Hang realize that something was wrong. She didn't sound like a stranger to him. "You recognize me?" Xiao Hang looked at her suspiciously. Mo Chenxue pointed at his right eye. "Do you think I won't recognize you just because you don't have that mole? Although your appearance has changed a little from a few years ago, I can still recognize you." Xiao Hang frowned slightly. He did have a mole under his right eye. Had she really seen him before? Mo Chenxue saw that he was silent and her face darkened. "Don't tell me you don't remember me?" Xiao Heng didn't say anything. Mo Chenxue's almond eyes widened. "You really don't remember? I was wondering, when I saw you near the Hanlin Academy, I asked my maid to look for you, but you didn't pay any attention to her." Near the Hanlin Academy. Maid. Xiao Hang remembered. There was indeed such a thing. It was even seen by Tsun Xiu, who spread rumors in the Hanlin Academy that he had an affair with a brothel girl. Xiao Hang stared at her. "You were the one that day?" Mo Chenxue nodded. "Yes. It was me. I purposely dropped a token on the ground. Who knew that you didn't pick it up, but it was picked up by a random person. After that, that person dared to go to the Immortal Music House to look for me." Xiao Heng's eyes flickered. Immortal Music House? Sun Xiu had indeed met with an accident near the Immortal Music House. At that time, the result of the investigation was that Sun Xiu was bold and reckless. He coveted the girls in the Immortal Music House, but he didn't have a token to enter. So, he tried to sneak in by climbing over the wall, but was killed by the guards. So, he wasn't killed by a thief, but by the woman in front of him? Mo Chenxue didn't realize what kind of impact her words had brought to the room. She said calmly, "Didn't I tell you before that if I saw you again, I would tell you who I was?" Xiao Heng looked at her, his eyes cold and probing. "Is that so? Then who are you?" Mo Chenxue raised her eyebrows and smiled. "I am the top courtesan of the Immortal Music House, Mo Chenxue." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1089600671. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 541. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with hidden meanings that can't be found online are all available here. The dead courtesan of Immortal Music House actually appeared in front of his eyes. Was there anything more ridiculous than this? If she was Mo Chenxue, then what was up with the female corpse lying in the yamen? Also, Xiao Hang was very sure that he had never seen Mo Chenxue before. Then who did Mo Chenxue mistake him for? In an instant, countless doubts flashed through Xiao Heng's mind. A string in his heart tightened. He felt that he seemed to have inadvertently approached a certain truth. When Xiao Heng didn't want others to see his emotions, no one could break through. He instantly collected his thoughts and entered the state of knowing Mo Chenxue. But I heard that the courtesan of Immortal Music House is dead. It's just a scapegoat, Mo Chenxue said carelessly. This was supposed to be a secret, but Mo Chenxue didn't seem to have any fear in front of him. Xiao Heng looked at her calmly. Ah, it hurts, it hurts. Help me. Mo Chenxue gasped and reached out her hand. Xiao Heng didn't move, but Mo Chenxue thought of something and quickly pulled her hand back. I'll do it myself. She endured the pain and moved to a stool by the table. She sat down and said to Xiao Heng, "All right? Why are you here? Last time I saw you, weren't you an official of the Hanlin Academy? You're not wearing the uniform of the Hanlin Academy today." Xiao Heng said, "I'm on duty at the Ministry of Justice today." Mo Chenxue snorted. Ministry of Justice? Xiao Heng said calmly, I'm investigating your case today. If I knew that you faked your death, I wouldn't have bothered." Mo Chenxue waved her hand. "Just investigate casually, don't be too serious. Otherwise, I'm afraid you'll get into trouble." Xiao Heng seemed to ask casually, "What kind of trouble will I get into?" Mo Chenxue sighed. "Sigh, this is a long story. Even I don't know much about it. I don't know how to explain it to you." Xiao Heng's eyes moved. "Is it the young master behind you?" Mo Chenxue looked at him in shock. "You know our young master?" Xiao Heng said calmly, "Today, the Minister of Justice and I went to investigate a case. On the way, we encountered a group of people who wanted to kill us. That group of people accidentally mentioned something about the young master." Xiao Heng didn't lie, but he didn't tell the whole truth. For example, those people were actually targeting him, and it had nothing to do with him investigating the case. Xiao Heng was testing Mo Chenxue. He wanted to know what role she played in this case and how much she knew. "Are you hurt?" This was Mo Chenxue's reaction. Xiao Heng's eyelashes drooped as he faintly said, "I'm fine. Minister Xing suffered some minor injuries." This sentence easily made people think that the group of people were targeting Minister Xing. Mo Chenxue pursed her lips and said, "It must be because you investigated the case too closely. They wanted to give you a warning. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come back alive. I know the young master's methods." It seemed that Mo Chenxue didn't know that those people actually wanted his life. In Mo Chenxue's eyes, why did her young master cause a murder case? Xiao Heng temporarily suppressed the urge to ask who the young master was. He poured a cup of tea for Mo Chenxue and asked, "Why did you fake your death?" "To kill someone." Mo Chenxue's mood fell. Xiao Heng was about to put the teapot back when his eyelashes trembled. He took the teapot back and poured himself a cup of tea. "Kill who?" Mo Chenxue said in a low voice, "The owner of this clinic." Xiao Heng clenched his fist and spilled 2 drops of tea on the table. He covered it with a teacup and said in a calm voice, "You deliberately got injured to get close to her?" "Yes." Mo Chenxue nodded gloomily. Xiao Heng said indifferently, "You're injured so badly. Aren't you afraid of dying?" Mo Chenxue thought that Xiao Heng guessed her injury from the gauze on her body. She didn't think that Xiao Heng already knew that she almost died that night. She said, "If I wasn't injured so badly, how could I win her trust?" Xiao Heng put the teapot back and suppressed the murderous aura that wanted to kill Mo Chenxue on the spot. He asked indifferently, "You've already won her trust. Why haven't you made a move yet?" Mo Chenxue was silent. "Do you still want to make a move?" Xiao Heng asked. "I don't know." Mo Chenxue said. Xiao Heng took a sip of tea and said, "You said that your young master's methods are impressive. Aren't you afraid that you'll be punished by him if you don't listen to him?" Mo Chenxue sighed incomparably. "Forget it, let's not talk about me. Let's talk about you. What's your current identity?" "Hanlin Academy attendant, Ministry of Justice Secretary." "What's your name?" Xiao Lulang. Oh. Mo Chenxue responded. She obviously felt that this name wasn't very good. Then, have you done what you said you were going to do here? Xiao Heng's expression didn't change as he said, I'm still doing it. What exactly is it? Mo Chenxue asked nosily. Xiao Heng's eyelashes fluttered slightly. He said seriously, I'll tell you when it's done. Mo Chenxue snorted. Boring. Xiao Heng could only drink tea to hide the fluctuations in his heart. Thinking of something, Mo Chenxue said, "All right, are you feeling better?" Xiao Heng's expression froze. If he wasn't sure that she had mistaken him for someone else, he would almost think that she was asking about his leg. It's done. Xiao Heng said. Mo Chenxue said in surprise, It can be cured? Then why did you choose to commit suicide? Xiao Heng almost couldn't continue. You believed me when I lied to you. Mo Chenxue nodded thoughtfully. I knew it. You didn't look like you were trying to commit suicide. From the lobby came a few shouts from the second boss. Mo Chenxue hurriedly said, Hurry up and leave. The owner of this clinic will be back soon. It'll be bad if she finds out about you. Xiao Heng. She's my wife, thank you. Mo Chenxue continued, Also, you can't tell anyone that you know me. If word gets out and reaches our young master's ears, I'm afraid you'll be killed. Xiao Heng was thinking about how to bring the topic back to this mysterious young master. He didn't expect Mo Chenxue to bring it up herself. He didn't ask before because he felt that it was too sudden and suspicious. Now he could push the boat with the current. Xiao Heng looked at her with a trace of curiosity. You keep mentioning your young master. I'm very curious. Who is he? A trace of fear flashed through Mo Chenxue's eyes. He's someone we can't afford to offend in Zhao country. Let's hear it. Xiao Heng said in an unconvinced tone. Mo Chenxue thought for a while and waved her hand. Forget it. It's not good for you to know too much. Xiao Heng said seriously, If you don't tell me who he is, how will I know how powerful he is? Is he worth the risk of being expelled from the Ministry of Justice to dissuade the Minister of Justice from suppressing this case? Mo Chenxue wanted to say something but stopped. She hesitated for a while. Suddenly, she dipped her finger into the teacup and slowly wrote 3 words on the table. This is the young master's name, she said. Xiao Heng's gaze fell on the name that was not unfamiliar, and his eyes were cold. The Imperial College hadn't started yet. Little Jing Kong had a lot of free time every day. The number of times he went out for a chicken walk had also increased. He went out once in the morning and again in the afternoon. When he brought 7 chickens, an eagle, and a dog back to the house, he saw his bad brother-in-law standing motionlessly at the door. He stuck his head out and looked into the house. Jiao Jiao wasn't there. In a second, he turned into a street bully in Qingshui Alley. He ordered arrogantly, What are you doing? Xiao Heng was both angry and amused. He patted his little mushroom head and said, Do you want to enter the palace? Little Jing Kong, I don't want to. Xiao Heng, No, you want to. Then, little Jing Kong was taken away with a confused look on his face. Little Jing Kong, who was once again a tool, was dragged into the carriage by his bad brother-in-law. They arrived at the palace with great resentment. The guards stopped the carriage. Xiao Heng lifted the curtain and lifted little Jing Kong up. The guards saw a familiar expressionless face and smiled. So it's the young master of Jing Kong. Sorry for the disrespect. The guards let him go. Sure enough, the little monk's face was more useful than the token. The carriage stopped after entering the palace. Xiao Heng held little Jing Kong's hand and walked forward. Little Jing Kong once again returned to the state of being abducted by the human merchant. He drooped his little head and walked unwillingly like a soulless puppet. However, when he passed by the imperial garden and saw beautiful flowers, he quickly picked one. Xiao Heng turned around. He quickly hid the flower behind him and continued to walk forward with his head lowered. Xiao Heng wanted to laugh. Do you know whose flower you picked? Little Jing Kong said, I didn't pick the flower. Oh, he still knew that he was being tricked. Xiao Hang said, that's the flower planted by Princess Xinyang. It's poisonous. Little Jing Kong threw the flower away. Xiao Hang almost laughed out loud. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/1089599046. HTML Genius memorized the website address www.zhbqg.com. Biku Gu mobile reading website zhbqg.com. Chapter 542. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel was updated faster. Millions of novels were free to read. There were all kinds of novels that couldn't be found on the internet. Little Jing Kong was still too inexperienced to fight with his bad brother-in-law. Xiao Heng was just teasing him. It would be a waste to throw it away since he had already picked it. Xiao Heng picked up the flower and handed it to him. Here, I'm just teasing you. It's not poisonous. Little Jing Kong looked at the little flower suspiciously and didn't reach out to take it. His bad brother-in-law had no credibility. Little Jing Kong didn't believe what he said. Thus, Xiao Hang held the flowers for him to prevent this brat from harming other flowers. Little Jing Kong observed his bad brother-in-law all the way. He looked at his hand holding the flower and then at his face. Why do you keep looking at me? Xiao Heng asked. I want to see if your glabella is black, Little Jing Kong said honestly. Xiao Hang was speechless. Little Jing Kong didn't take the flower until they entered Renshou Palace and found that his bad brother-in-law still didn't show any signs of being poisoned. Xiao Hang was now an official in the Hanlin Academy and also worked in the Ministry of Justice. There were many people watching him, so he couldn't go in and out of Renshou Palace as willfully as before. He could only use the excuse of sending Little Jing Kong to avoid giving others a hard time. Little Jing Kong said that he didn't want to go to the palace, but he was quite happy when he went in. Hello, Sister Fei Tsui. Hello, Sister Zhenju. He greeted the little maids in Renshou Palace one by one and then went to find his grandaunt. Empress Dowager Zhuang's condition wasn't good. Maybe she was too worried about Ning An and her son. She looked a little haggard, especially after Huang Fuxian left. Empress Dowager Zhuang would be in a daze for a long time. That afternoon, Huang Fuxian had just come over and had something to eat before leaving. Empress Dowager Zhuang sat by the window and looked at the scenery in the courtyard. Suddenly, a small round head grew out from under the windowsill. Grand Aunt. Empress Dowager Zhuang's eyelids twitched. Why is it you again? Little Jing Kong stood on his tiptoes and handed Hua Hua in from outside the window. This beautiful Hua Hua is for my beautiful great aunt. Empress Dowager Zhuang's mouth twitched. Even if you were to change the wording, you wouldn't be so perfunctory. Empress Dowager Zhuang calmly took the peony. You went to ruin Princess Xinyang's flowers again? Little Jing Kong put his hands behind his back and said seriously, I got it from my brother-in-law. He wasn't lying. He had just taken it from his bad brother-in-law. Even though he was the one who plucked it. How could Empress Dowager Zhuang not understand him? Empress Dowager Zhuang snorted. Looking at the delicate peony, she said, Why are you suddenly so kind to send me flowers? Little Jing Kong sighed. Sigh no. My bad brother-in-law said that this flower is poisonous, so I can't give it to Jiao Jiao. Empress Dowager Zhuang was speechless. After Xiao Hang entered Ranshou Palace, he didn't hurry to find Great Aunt. Instead, he went to see Eunuch Qin first. The Empress Dowager's condition. Eunuch Qin heard Xiao Hang asking about the Empress Dowager, so he didn't hide anything. It's not good to tell the truth. Princess Ning and suffered so much in the frontier fortress for so many years. After she came back, she looked so pitiful. The most pitiful is young Master Xian. He suffered so much at such a young age. The more unreasonable he is, the more upset the Empress Dowager will be. After Huang Fu Xian moved into the palace, he caused a lot of trouble. On the first day, he bullied Qin Chuyu. Not long after, he scared the two little commandery princesses raised by noble consort Zhuang in the palace. As for not showing respect to the empress and the imperial concubines, it was a light punishment. The point was that as long as someone complained to His Majesty, he wouldn't admit it. How did a good child become like this? In eunuch Qin's opinion, Huang Fu Zhang deserved to die 1,000 times over. This child's scheming. Cough cough. Realizing that he almost said something he shouldn't, eunuch Qin decisively stopped. Xiao Hang pretended that he didn't hear the last sentence and said, "Then I'll go and see the Empress Dowager." Xiao Hang went to Empress Dowager Zhuang's study and patted little Jing Kong's shoulder. "Go and play. I'll talk to Grand Aunt for a while." "Oh, Grand Aunt, I'm leaving." Little Jing Kong waved his little hand and turned to leave. Xiao Hang stayed in the study to talk with Empress Dowager Zhuang, while little Jing Kong went to Chenkuan Palace to find Qin Chuyu. Because of the lesson last time, the two didn't go to Bixia Hall this time. "Let's go and feed the fish," little Jing Kong said. There was a Tay pond in the palace, and there were many koi fish in it. Each of them was fat and cute. Qin Chuyu was not in high spirits. "What's wrong? Are you unhappy?" little Jing Kong asked with concern. Qin Chuyu sighed as he walked on the path full of flowers. "My puppy is gone." "Why is it gone?" Little Jing Kong was confused. Qin Chuyu said sadly, "My mother said it ran around last time and caused me to run into Huang Fu Xian. Huang Fu Xian bullied me, so my mother won't let me keep it anymore." Little Jing Kong thought about his pets and said, "Actually, my chickens and birds also get into trouble. Didn't little Nine almost peck you last time? But Jiao Jiao didn't forbid him from keeping it." Jiao Jiao was great. Qin Chuyu was so pitiful. He comforted Qin Chuyu, "If you like puppies, you can come to my house next time. I'll lend you little 8. "I just want my dog," Qin Chuyu said sullenly. "Huh? Listen." Little Jing Kong suddenly pulled him to a stop. "Listen to what?" Qin Chuyu asked strangely. "Your dog." Little Jing Kong said crisply. Qin Chuyu looked around. "Where?" "I heard it." Little Jing Kong pointed. "Over there." The two children ran in the direction pointed out by little Jing Kong. Behind a rockery, the two of them really saw Qin Chuyu's dog. However, the scene was different from what they had imagined. Huang Fu Xian was here too. Huang Fu Xian sat alone in a cold wheelchair without any servants around him. His legs were covered with a thick blanket as usual, and Qin Chuyu's dog was lying on the blanket. Its entire body was covered in blood. It was obvious that it had either been thrown to the ground or abused by someone. Huang Fu Xian was choking it with one hand and forcing something into its mouth with the other. The puppy whimpered in pain, but Huang Fu Xian didn't show any mercy. He forced the dog's mouth open. His expression was ferocious. At that moment, he was no longer a disabled young man, but a twisted devil. Qin Chuyu had never seen such a terrifying person. He was so scared that he fell to the ground and even forgot to scream. Little Jing Kong was also shocked. He stared at the man and the dog in the wheelchair with his eyes wide open. Huang Fu Xian sensed the movement from the side. He slowly turned his head, revealing a pair of malicious eyes. "Ah!" Qin Chuyu's hair stood on end and he finally screamed. Qin Chuyu was so young that he couldn't bear such a terrifying shock. He trembled and almost crawled forward. "Help! Help! Someone is killing the puppy!" He ran away. Little Jing Kong didn't run away. Huang Fu Xian's malicious eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. He asked sarcastically, "Aren't you going to run, little thing?" Little Jing Kong looked at him, and then looked at the dying puppy on his leg. He didn't know if he hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he turned around and ran away. Huh? Huang Fuxian sneered disdainfully. When it was time for court, the emperor called the cabinet ministers and military officials to the imperial study to discuss the rewards for the meritorious officials at the frontier fortress. Tang Yueshan was already the grand marshal of the world. He couldn't be promoted, so the emperor planned to give him a title. Gu Chongqing, as the heir of Marquis Ding En, was ordered to reorganize the Gu army and go north to fight the enemy. His contributions couldn't go unnoticed. The emperor planned to promote him to a third-rank northern general. He was promoted 3 ranks from a 6th-rank military officer. He could be considered the fastest promoted general during the emperor's reign. Gu Changfeng performed well in the Battle of Yuegu City, so the emperor decided to give him the position of military officer of the Yu cavalry. As for the other generals, the emperor also mentioned their rewards one by one. The ministers had no objections. Until now, the imperial study was harmonious. Then, the emperor began to reward Gu Jiao and Ning, and Gu Jiao still hadn't acknowledged her identity as the daughter of Marquis Ding En, so the emperor planned to reward her in the name of the owner of the Miracle Hands Hall. The emperor bestowed the plaque of the No. 1 Divine Doctor and conferred the title of Junju. The title was left to Han Lin Academy to decide. At this time, Su Sifu from the cabinet spoke up. Dr. Gu is only a medical woman. Even if she has performed meritorious deeds in saving the soldiers, she still can't bear the title of Junju, right? Su Sifu was one of Imperial Tutor Zhuang's people. Imperial Tutor Zhuang claimed to be ill and didn't come today. The emperor looked at Su Sifu with displeasure. Why can't she bear the title? Do you know how many people she saved? This official does not deny Dr. Gu's contributions. This official only feels that Your Majesty should give her other rewards. Your Majesty bestowing the plaque of the No. 1 Divine Doctor is already very generous. If you also give her the title of Junju, it would be inconsistent with the ancestral rules. Su Sifu cupped his hands and continued, besides, compared to Dr. Gu, this official believes that another person should be rewarded more. The emperor lightly said, "Oh? Who are you referring to?" Su Sifu sternly said, Princess Ning and Princess Ning placed righteousness above family and helped Second Master Gu save the old Marquis. She also helped Gu Shizhi destroy the nest of the remnants of the previous dynasty. If it wasn't for Princess Ning An's wit and bravery, the Gu family's army commander might not have been able to leave the snowy mountains. Princess Ning An's contributions are great. This official proposes that Princess Ning An be conferred the title of Princess Protector. Zhao country's princess eldest was not a title that could be casually conferred. That was a princess with real power. Her position was the same as that of a marquis. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/10893794. HTML Genius 1 second. Remember this website address. www.zhbqg.com. Biku Gu mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 543. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Princess Ning An was very popular among the people. Her action of putting righteousness before family spread all the way from the frontier fortress to the capital. The people all praised her for her loyalty and patriotism. Moreover, she had a son who had lost his legs. People couldn't help but feel pity for her under the praise. Therefore, when the conversation in the imperial study spread, the people received a lot of praise. Of course, the praise came from Princess Ning An. They all said that she deserved to be the first princess of the Protector. Tang Yueshan heard the news in the barracks. His injury had healed, but he still needed to do rehabilitation every day. He was bored at home, so he came to the barracks to train with the soldiers. Today's Tiger Mountain Barracks was not the same as before. The Gu clan army was no longer in the Tiger Mountain Barracks after being reorganized. They went to the nearby Wolf Mountain Barracks, while the soldiers of the Wolf Mountain Barracks were transferred here. Tang Yueshan's archers were also there. 500 of them came back from the frontier fortress after fighting in the war. They were trapped in Yi City with the guards of the imperial court. Tang Yueshan used a trick to lure them out of Yi City. On the way, they were chased by the Chen army. It was Gu Jiao who stopped the Chen army's pursuit by herself. If it was the duty of a doctor to heal the wounded and save the dying, then it was not her duty to risk her life for the soldiers. But she still did it without hesitation. They didn't forget how she risked her life for them, and how she worked hard to treat them. She even gave them the last chance to enter the city. Now that they suddenly heard that she was going to be conferred the title of princess, the soldiers were quite happy for her. Then they heard that Princess Ning An was going to be the first princess of the Protector. The soldiers were a little confused, but they could accept it. After all, she was a princess of the imperial family. The emperor and the empress dowager wanted to spoil her. They just needed to watch. But someone asked, how did she become the protector of the Protector? A soldier told him the news he heard. Tang Yueshan's archers grew anxious. An archer asked, when did she work with second young Master Gu to save the old duke? It was clearly Dr. Gu and second young Master Gu who had rescued the old duke. On the way, they met the Grand Marshal and worked together with him to deal with the prince consort. After that, Dr. Gu and second young Master Gu brought the seriously injured old duke to Yuegu City while the Grand Marshal went to Yi City. Save us. The soldier analyzed for him. The old marquis was locked up in the governor's manor. The governor's manor was heavily guarded and filled with experts. Without Princess Ning and holding back the prince consort and diverting their attention, how could that doctor and second young Master Gu succeed? The archer said angrily, why can't we succeed? You don't know how amazing Dr. Gu is. Back then, she alone scared off 5,000 Chen cavalrymen. The soldier waved his hand. Keep bragging. Do you think the Chen State's cavalry is made of paper? The archer was furious. You've never been there, how do you know I'm just bluffing? The soldier chuckled. Is there a need to go? Just think about it and you know it's impossible. Even if that Dr. Gu is extremely capable, it can't be as exaggerated as you say, right? In fact, everyone only had a little doubt about whether Princess Ning An was qualified to be conferred the title of First Princess Protector. They had no right to comment on it. Now that the conflict had arisen, it immediately aroused everyone's desire to win. Just like that, the two sides began to argue. As they argued, they began to fight. At first, it was just two people fighting, but as they fought, it became two rows of people fighting. One row was made up of archers who had been to the frontier fortress, while the other row was made up of soldiers who had just come from the Wolf Mountain Barracks. The commotion alerted Tang Yueshan, who also found out about Princess Ning An's conferment. Tang Yueshan was the Grand Marshal. At his current height, he naturally saw the problem from a different perspective than the soldiers below. He knew very well why things would change when they reached the capital. It was because this was the officialdom. It didn't matter whether Princess Ning An had really made those contributions. She was the favorite of the Emperor and Empress Dowager Zhuang, so there would be people rushing to flatter her. Wasn't that what the civil officials were best at? They talked as if they knew more about all the things that had happened in the war than the soldiers on the battlefield. Compared with a little female doctor, it was obvious that the spirit of sacrifice and national integrity of a princess was more convincing. But then again, if Tang Yueshan hadn't experienced it himself, he wouldn't have believed that Gu Jiao had risked her life like that. How could anyone fight to that extent? She fought on the city tower for an entire night with her own strength, just to keep the flag of the Zhao kingdom from falling, just to protect the border fortress from being broken. Just this alone made Tang Yueshan's chest surge when he thought of it. This didn't mean that the other soldiers didn't contribute, or that whoever contributed more or less had contributed less. Every soldier had done a good job. But the claims about Princess Ning An's contributions were indeed exaggerated. Tang Yueshan wouldn't be so surprised if Gu Chongqing had destroyed the nest of the remnants of the previous dynasty. Forget it, he was an old general. This kind of thing was commonplace. The merits of the subordinates were meant to be taken by the superiors. Besides, Gu Jiao wasn't anyone to him. He wouldn't admit that she was a henchman. He wasn't angry. He didn't care. He wouldn't stand up for her. In the afternoon, Tang Yueshan received a summons from the emperor, ordering him to go to the palace immediately. Tang Yueshan guessed that the emperor wanted to confer the title of Princess Ning An. He was the Grand Marshal of all the troops and an important minister in the war at the frontier fortress. If he came forward to ask for the title of Princess Ning An, he believed that the title of Protector Princess would be more justified. But the emperor also asked him to bring his Tang Bao. He couldn't figure out what the emperor wanted to do. He followed the eunuch to the palace and found that the emperor didn't summon him to the imperial study, but to a meadow near the imperial garden. Princess Ning An was there. "Your Majesty, Princess Ning An." He carried the Tang Bao on his back and saluted. There were tables and chairs in the meadow. The emperor and Princess Ning An had already sat down. The emperor pointed to a chair and said to Tang Yueshan, "Minister Tang, sit down." Tang Yueshan sat down in confusion. About 5 feet in front of him, Eunuch Wei and a few guards set up 10 targets. Did the emperor want to see him shoot? "How is Minister Tang's injury?" the emperor asked in an amiable manner. Tang Yueshan belatedly realized that the emperor had changed his title to minister. She was really overwhelmed by this favor. A few months ago, he was still a thorn in the emperor's side. He said respectfully, "I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty." What was the emperor trying to do? Just then, Eunuch Wei strode over. He greeted Tang Yueshan with a smile. "Lord Tang, you're here." "Eunuch Wei." Tang Yueshan saluted back. Eunuch Wei smiled and turned to the emperor and Princess Ning An. "Your Majesty, Your Highness, the targets are ready." "Bring the bow," the emperor said. "Yes." Eunuch Wei walked to the side, took a heavy bow from a guard, and personally handed it to Princess Ning An. Tang Yueshan raised his eyebrows. Princess Ning An grabbed the bow without saying a word. The guard immediately handed her a quiver. She took out an arrow, knocked it on the bow, took aim, and shot. She hit the bullseye. Tang Yueshan was shocked. "Good archery, Your Highness," Eunuch Wei praised with a smile. The emperor looked at Princess Ning An lovingly. "You haven't lost your archery skills. In fact, you've improved a little." Tang Yueshan remembered that Princess Ning An had learned archery from him years ago. Otherwise, why would Empress Dowager Zhuang want to marry Princess Ning An to him? It was just his father's voice that broke the silence. He went to tell the Empress Dowager that he and Princess Ning An seemed to be in love with each other. To be honest, he didn't have that kind of feeling for Princess Ning An. He liked mature and gentle women, not a childish girl like Ning An. Wait, the emperor suddenly called him here and made him watch Princess Ning An shoot an arrow. Could it be that the emperor wanted to marry Princess Ning An to him again? He didn't want to marry just any married woman. The emperor smiled and asked, "Minister Tang, what do you think of Ning An's archery skills?" It was good enough that an ordinary person could shoot like this. Tang Yueshan wanted to say that, but instead, he said, "She's terrible." The emperor was stunned. So was Princess Ning An. She didn't expect Tang Yueshan to be so sharp-tongued. Tang Yueshan broke out in cold sweat. What did he just say? Was it because he had been bickering with Gu Changfeng in the ward for too long that he didn't know how to control his mouth? Is it terrible?" Princess Ning An asked awkwardly. At this distance, it was good enough for a woman to hit the edge of the bullseye. Unexpectedly, Tang Yueshan's head heated up and he vented the anger he had been holding in all the way. "Don't you know whether it's terrible or not? Even a blind man can shoot better than you. Fortunately, you don't have to go to war. Otherwise, you'll kill your own people before the enemy dies. And you call yourself the Princess Protector? Look at you. Do you deserve it? Have you ever killed an enemy or shed blood? Have you ever saved a person or cured a plague? Just because you're a princess, you think you can take all the credit? Bah! You're nothing. Digression, Little Fong Fong. 666. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. You can find all the novels you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/10893787. HTML Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 544. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with deep content that can't be found online are available here. His words were simply deadly. What was worse was that Tang Yueshan actually said the last 2 sentences. The entire field fell silent. The sparrows in the forest stopped moving. Tang Yueshan finally realized what he had said. He felt as if a few crows were flying over his head. Tang Yueshan had never been so sharp-tongued. It wasn't that he was big-hearted or that he was a general. It was just that there weren't many generals who were sharp-tongued. He wouldn't lose a fight, and he couldn't win an argument. However, ever since he became Gu Qingfeng's roommate, he had been getting scolded from time to time. After getting scolded so many times, he had gotten used to it. Just now, he couldn't hold back and blurted out whatever was on his mind. It was all Gu Qingfeng's fault. He would never admit that he was standing up for Gu Jiao. Impossible. Impossible. The atmosphere was so awkward that one could dig out a house with one's toe. Eunuch Wei looked at Princess Ning and then at His Majesty. Both of them looked terrible. It's over. Marshal Tang, you're finished. You could have offended anyone, but you had to offend Princess Ning N. Don't you know that Princess Ning N is His Majesty's favorite? Tang Yueshan wanted to cry but had no tears. He was telling the truth, but was it too late to regret? What's going on? A cold voice came from behind them. Eunuch Wei turned around in surprise. He bowed to the newcomer and said, Miss Gu? Why are you in the palace today? I'm here to see my grand aunt, said Gu Jiao. She had been so busy taking care of Mo Qianxue that she hadn't been in the palace to see how her grand aunt was doing. She was passing by the imperial garden when she heard the general's roar. She came to see what was going on. The emperor glared at Tang Yueshan coldly. He suppressed the urge to drag him away and beat him to death. He said gently to Gu Jiao, Jiao Jiao. Your Majesty, Princess Ning N, Grand Marshal Tang. Gu Jiao greeted them one by one. Her tone wasn't very enthusiastic, nor was it as polite as Xiao Heng's deliberate attitude after he became an official. It was just cold and cheerless, sounding as if she didn't care. If it was anyone else who said this, the emperor would be angry. But Gu Jiao's personality was like this, so the emperor didn't think she was being rude to him and Princess Ning N. Are you shooting arrows? Gu Jiao saw a target not far away. Judging from the distance, it was about 50 steps away. Eunuch Wei smiled and said, Yes, Miss Gu, do you know how to shoot an arrow? Gu Jiao thought for a moment. Yes, I know a little, but I'm not very good at it. Eunuch Wei was a shrewd person. He quickly asked with a smile, Miss Gu, do you want to try it? Okay. Gu Jiao nodded. Eunuch Wei glanced at Princess Ning An awkwardly. He had only prepared one bow. Princess Ning An handed the bow in her hand to Eunuch Wei. Thank you, Princess. Eunuch Wei reached out with both hands and respectfully handed the bow to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao was holding the bow in her right hand and an arrow in her left hand. This made Eunuch Wei and the emperor both look askance. Gu Jiao didn't look like a left-handed person, so how could she use her left hand to draw the bow? Could it be that she wasn't very good at it, so she didn't know which hand to use to draw the bow? Gu Jiao, who wasn't very good at it, took 3 arrows from the guard's quiver, knocked them on the bowstring, took aim, and shot. 3 arrows were shot at the same time. Each arrow hit the center of the target and went through the center, directly piercing through the bullseye. The emperor was so shocked that he held onto the armrest of his chair and sat up straight. This is called not very good at it? Yes. Gu Jiao nodded and said seriously, the Tang family's archers can shoot 4 arrows at the same time, and each arrow can hit a willow tree from 100 paces away. This bullseye is so big and only 50 paces away. A Tang family archer can hit it with his eyes closed. But she still had to open her eyes. If it were 100 paces away, she wouldn't be able to hit it with such accuracy even with her eyes open. The emperor looked at the target that had been shot through by Gu Jiao, and then looked at Princess Ning An's arrow that had only hit the edge of the bullseye. In a trance, he felt that Tang Yueshan's words, "Even a blind man can shoot better than you," were not offensive words, but an incomparably cruel truth. Is it really that good? The emperor asked Tang Yueshan seriously. I wouldn't dare. Although Tang Yueshan said that he didn't dare, he drew his Tang bow, knocked 4 arrows, and shot them out. He didn't seem to have hit anything. However, when Eunuch Wei brought the guards to retrieve the arrows he had shot, they found that each arrow had hit the root of a flower and nailed it firmly to the branch. This was much more difficult than shooting a willow tree from 100 paces away. At least the leaves of the willow tree were not so thin. Eunuch Wei took the flowers back. The emperor was completely speechless. Princess Ningen said, Miss Gu and Marshal Tang look very similar when it comes to drawing a bow. Did Miss Gu learn archery from Marshal Tang? No. Gu Jiao and Tang Yueshan denied it in unison. In the next second, the emperor and the others saw the 2 of them take out handkerchiefs to wipe the bows in their hands. Their movements were so synchronized that they even habitually flicked the handkerchiefs on the bowstrings. The emperor was speechless. Everyone was speechless. The emperor was so angry at Tang Yueshan that he almost forgot about the important matter. He only remembered it now when he saw him wiping the bow. The emperor said, Princess Ning admires Minister Tang's archery very much. If Minister Tang has the time, please give Princess Ning some pointers. Generally speaking, the emperor was a benevolent ruler. This benevolence was a double-edged sword. It allowed him to be loyal to those around him, but it also allowed him to be merciful to those who offended him verbally. If the late emperor were here today, Tang Yueshan would have been skinned alive, no matter how useful he was to the emperor. When Tang Yueshan heard the emperor's words, he knew that his life was saved. He secretly sighed in relief and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. He cupped his hands and said, In response to your Majesty's words, this humble subject is a boor and doesn't know any etiquette. I'm afraid I've offended Princess Ningen. If Princess Ningen really wants to learn archery, this humble subject can recommend 1 or 2 candidates. The emperor had just experienced Tang Yueshan's sharp tongue and was worried that Tang Yueshan would offend Princess Ningen again. He looked at Princess Ningen unexpectedly. Princess Ningen didn't mind at all. She said, It's fine. Marshal Tang is straightforward and outspoken. He's much more comfortable with us compared to those petty people who only pretend to obey. Tang Yueshan was very unhappy. The Tang family's archery skills couldn't be taught casually. Years ago, Princess Ningen went to the Tang family to learn some archery skills because her father drank too much. He was too embarrassed to go back on his word, but he didn't teach her for too long. A few months later, Princess Ningen finished her apprenticeship. Is Marshal Tang not happy? Princess Ningen asked. This was a fatal question. Tang Yueshan coughed and said, This humble subject just thinks. He can't teach. Gu Jiao said, He was injured at the frontier fortress and needs to go back to the capital for rehabilitation. Archery will affect the results of his rehabilitation. The atmosphere became awkward again. Eunuch Wei's eyes wandered back and forth between his masters. Princess Ning An was His Majesty's favorite, but the little magic doctor was also very favored. Who would His Majesty listen to? Would it be his little sister who had been doting on him since childhood, or the little magic doctor who had saved his life? Just as the atmosphere was about to freeze, little fatty Qin Chuyu rushed over, wailing like a ghost. "Father! Father! Help me!" He threw himself into His Majesty's arms without a care. His chubby little hands grabbed His Majesty's clothes, and his body trembled. His behavior was too unbecoming of a prince. His Majesty frowned, but he also felt sorry for his chubby little son. "What's wrong?" His Majesty asked in a deep voice. Qin Chuyu cried until he was out of breath. My dog," His Majesty frowned. "Speak properly. What happened to your dog?" Qin Chuyu cried out, "Huang Fuxian killed my dog." Everyone's expression changed. Huang Fuxian's strange temperament was no secret in the palace. But killing a dog, especially a prince's dog, was too much. His Majesty frowned and tried to help the chubby little fatty up from his arms. "Are you mistaken? Why would your cousin kill your dog?" Qin Chuyu didn't get up from his father's arms. He buried his head in his father's arms. "I saw it with my own eyes. I saw it in Jingkong too. He's right there. He's right by the supreme liquid pool. If you don't believe me, you can go and see for yourself." Ningen stood up and said, "Your Majesty, I'll go and see." His Majesty said, "I'll go with you." Qin Chuyu grabbed His Majesty's clothes. "Father, don't go." His Majesty said, "Didn't you ask me to go?" Qin Chuyu cried, "What will happen to me if you go? I'm scared." His Majesty sighed and said, "Let Eunuch Wei send you back to the Palace of Earthly Tranquility." Because of this sudden change, His Majesty didn't have time to deal with Tang Yueshan teaching archery to Princess Ning An. He went to the supreme liquid pool with Princess Ning, and Tang Yueshan watched them leave and muttered, "These delicate princesses can't be beaten or scolded when they practice archery. Whoever teaches them will be unlucky." After he said that, he suddenly saw Gu Jiao staring at the Tang Bao in his hand. Her eyes were shining. Tang Yueshan's heart skipped a beat. He quickly held the Tang Bao in his arms. "Don't even think about it. I won't let you touch it. If you touch it, I'll be a donkey." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. You can find all the novels that you can't find on the internet. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1089136626. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 545. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are available here. The Emperor and Princess Ning An quickly rushed in the direction of the supreme liquid pool. Sure enough, they saw Huang Fuxian covered in blood on the grass behind a rockery near the pool. The scene was unforgettable for the Emperor. Huang Fuxian's legs were not covered with a thick blanket as before. His legs were covered in blood. A pair of empty trousers fluttered in the cold wind. His hands were also covered in blood. Even his cheeks, the corners of his eyes, and his neck were all splashed with blood. A drop of blood flowed down from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were empty and gloomy. His figure was lonely and broken. The Emperor's heart suddenly surged with an indescribable feeling. It seemed to be cold and also seemed to be horrified. A thought flashed through his mind. How could there be such a terrible child in the world? Huang Fuxian was only 13 years old, 1 year younger than Gu Shaoshun. However, the coldness he showed was not something a normal person should have. The emperor's eyes fell on his empty trousers and his throat suddenly choked. Xian, what are you doing? Princess Ning roared as she ran over. She grabbed Huang Fuxian's shoulders tightly and shook his frail body. What have you done? Huang Fuxian expressionlessly allowed her to rock him back and forth in the cold wheelchair. Princess Ning said with red eyes, Speak. What have you done? Why did you do this? The emperor came back to his senses and walked forward to pull Princess Ning away. Princess Ning covered her face and cried in the emperor's arms. It's all my fault, it's my fault. The emperor looked and didn't see the dog's body. He didn't know if the child threw the dog into the supreme liquid pool. Thinking that a 13-year-old child could be so cruel, the emperor couldn't help but close his eyes and gasp. Because he was Ning'an's son, he had to endure. Ning'an had suffered too much. He couldn't let her suffer any more harm. You go back first. I will talk to him. The emperor said to Princess Ning, and Princess Ning cried and looked at Huang Fuxian. The emperor patted her shoulder comfortingly. I won't do anything to him. I just want to have a good talk with him. With the emperor's words, it would be inappropriate for Princess Ning not to return. Princess Ning sobbed and said to Huang Fuxian, Don't make your uncle angry. Huang Fuxian leaned lazily against the back of the wheelchair, looking as if he didn't care about anyone. Princess Ning turned and returned to Iridescent Cloud's hall. The emperor looked at Huang Fuxian and hesitated for a moment before taking 2 steps towards him. He stopped beside his wheelchair and sighed. Xian, I know you're suffering. You've lost your legs and your father. I understand your pain. Huh? Huang Fuxian sneered disdainfully. He snorted at the emperor's words. Ever since the emperor ascended the throne, no one except Empress Dowager Zhuang dared to speak to him like this. He didn't want to argue with a child. Yes, I didn't lose my legs. I can't understand all your pain. But I also lost my father. I understand the pain of losing a father. Huang Fuxian said sarcastically, Your Majesty's situation is different from mine. Your Majesty's father died of an illness, while mine was killed by someone. The emperor frowned. Your father betrayed the court. Huang Fuxian said calmly, His court is the Li dynasty. The emperor clenched his fists and gasped again. He couldn't be angry at his nephew. The emperor looked at him and said, If you want to blame someone, blame me. Don't blame your mother. Don't do these things to make your mother angry. Huang Fuxian didn't look at the emperor. Instead, he looked at the calm surface of the imperial liquid pool and said coldly, She betrayed my father. I want to blame her. I will never forgive her. Of course, I won't forgive your Majesty either. Your Majesty better kill me as soon as possible. Otherwise, when I have the power, I may continue my father's great cause of restoring the country. I am a member of the imperial family of the Li dynasty. My father's blood flows in my body. As long as I am alive, the Li dynasty will not perish. Your Majesty, Your Majesty, Your Majesty. Eunuch Wei's voice sounded from afar. The emperor's consciousness returned. He realized that he had returned to the imperial study and had been in a daze for a long time. He had almost strangled the child's neck. He had almost killed him. It was the child's appearance that was too similar to Ning An's that pulled him back to his senses. He was afraid that if he stayed any longer, he would give an order to cut off his head. So, he left him alone. Your Majesty, are you okay? Eunuch Wei looked at His Majesty worriedly. The emperor wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and shook his head. I'm fine. How is little Qi? Eunuch Wei said embarrassedly, I sent the 7th prince to the Palace of Earthly Tranquility and handed him over to the Empress. The Empress doesn't seem to be happy. Who would be happy about this? The Empress was bullied twice, and it was by the same person. Empress Xiao was not a weak person who could be bullied. The Palace of Earthly Tranquility and the Palace of Earthly Tranquility had become enemies. The Emperor pinched his sore eyebrows. "Send someone to the Palace of Earthly Tranquility and tell them that I will be there for dinner tonight." This meant that he was going to appease Empress Xiao. Eunuch Wei understood. Yes. Eunuch Wei left. However, the Emperor's worry did not dissipate. It was easy to appease Empress Xiao, but it was not so easy for him to get over the hurdle in his heart. His mind was full of Huang Fu Xian's words. "As long as I am alive, the Li dynasty will not perish." The remnants of the previous dynasty were too good at causing trouble. They even left a terrible shadow in the emperor's heart. In fact, Huang Fu Xian was only a 13-year-old cripple. How could he restore the country? However, another voice floated in the emperor's mind. He had the blood of the previous dynasty in his body. He had inherited his father's wisdom and means. He was a child without any sympathy or pity. If he grew stronger, there would be endless trouble in the future. There was a memorial on the table requesting to confer Princess Ning and the title of Elder Princess Protector. The emperor had made up his mind. No matter how the court objected, he must confer the title of Elder Princess Protector to Ning An. But now he was not so sure. Was he really going to confer Ning An the title of Duchess? In that case, after Ning An passed away, her fief and dukedom would be inherited by Huang Fu Xian. Would Huang Fu Xian, who had real power, not become the second King Yi or the emperor's son-in-law? There were two choices in front of him. First, he could confer Ning An the title of Elder Princess Protector, which was the same as that of Duchess. But he had to kill Huang Fu Xian to prevent future trouble. Second, he could not confer Ning An the title of Elder Princess Protector. Let Ning An be an ordinary princess, and Huang Fu Xian would be an ordinary playboy. He would never have the capital to restore the country. On the other side, Huang Fu Xian pushed his wheelchair back to Iridescent Cloud's hall. Princess Ning An was waiting for him in his room. When she saw him, she dismissed the servants. Only the mother and son were left in the room. Princess Ning An looked at his legs darkly. "Where's your blanket?" "It's dirty, so I threw it away," Huang Fu Xian said lightly. Princess Ning An took a deep breath. "Huang Fu Xian." Huang Fu Xian smiled and interrupted her. "Don't you want to know what I said to His Majesty?" "What did you say to His Majesty?" Princess Ning An asked. Huang Fu Xian smiled. "I said, I hate you and I hate him. You killed my father, and I will avenge my father one day. As long as I don't die, the Great Li dynasty will not perish." Slap. Princess Ning An gave him a cold slap with the back of her hand. This slap was merciless. Huang Fu Xian fell to the ground with his wheelchair. He rolled out of the wheelchair, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. He looked at her with a cold smile. "Mother, is this all you've got?" Princess Ning An's chest rose and fell violently. She angrily glared at him, and even her body was trembling. Huang Fu Xian laughed so hard that he was shaking. The dried blood on his cheeks and the fresh blood on the corner of his mouth merged into one, making him look very strange. "Mother, take a guess. With a son who wants to rebel, will His Majesty still let you be the elder princess?" Princess Ning An's nails dug into her flesh. "From today onwards, you're not allowed to take a step out of your room." After saying this, Princess Ning An turned and left. No one went into the room to help him up. Huang Fu Xian lay paralyzed on the cold floor, staring blankly at the carved beams above him. The world seemed to be silent. Cold wind poured in through the cracks in the window. Huang Fu Xian was so cold that he lost all feeling in his legs. He didn't move or make a sound. Suddenly, there was a squeak on the windowsill, as if a large bird had landed. Huang Fu Xian didn't care. He just lay there like he was waiting for death. Then, a cute little figure climbed in from the windowsill and fell to the ground with a thud. Huang Fu Xian raised his eyes. Unfortunately, he was frozen and couldn't move his eyes, so he couldn't see anything. Until that small figure ran over and came face to face with him on top of his head. "Little brother." Little Jing Kong greeted him. "What are you doing here?" Huang Fuxian closed his eyes and asked angrily, "Is this a place where you can come?" Little Jing Kong ignored his coldness and went to him. He asked curiously, "Why are you lying on the ground?" Huang Fuxian said sarcastically, "Ha, for fun." "Oh." Little Jing Kong also lay down beside him. Huang Fuxian was speechless. Little Jing Kong lay for a while and crossed his little hands on his belly. "But I feel so cold." Huang Fuxian thought, "Isn't that obvious?" Little Jing Kong sat up and took out a small porcelain bottle from his purse. "For you." Huang Fuxian asked calmly, "What is it?" Little Jing Kong explained, "Golden sore ointment. It's for healing injuries." Huang Fuxian said coldly, "The dog is dead." Little Jing Kong said, "It's for you. Isn't your hand injured?" Huang Fuxian's eyelashes trembled slightly. His hand was indeed injured, but no one noticed it. They all thought that the blood on his hand was from the dog. Little Jing Kong saw that he didn't take it, so he grabbed his hand and tried to stuff the ointment into his hand. Little Jing Kong grabbed his hand and found that his hand was frighteningly cold. "Your hand is so cold. You can't lie on the ground anymore." Huang Fuxian said, "It's none of your business." Little Jing Kong looked around and saw that his wheelchair was overturned. He thought for a while and said, "Did you fall?" Huang Fuxian said coldly, "I said it's none of your business." Little Jing Kong got up and used all his strength to straighten the wheelchair that was bigger than him. Then he went to help Huang Fuxian up. Huang Fuxian was frozen, so it was not easy to help him up. Little Jing Kong thought for a while, then he grabbed one of Huang Fuxian's hands and began to rub it. He rubbed it and exhaled, "It won't be cold anymore. It'll be warm soon." Huang Fuxian hated being close to people ever since he lost his legs. Even Princess Ning and couldn't touch him, but the little guy was rubbing his hand? Huang Fuxian was angry. "Let go of me." Little Jing Kong rubbed Huang Fuxian's forehead like how Gu Jiao usually did. "It'll be warm soon. Don't worry." He even rubbed his head. Huang Fuxian was about to explode. Little Jing Kong rubbed his left hand and then rubbed his right hand. Soon, his right hand was warm. Next, he was going to rub his legs. It was a taboo that he couldn't touch. It was incomplete and ugly. Even his biological father would feel disgusted and instinctively avoid it. "Don't touch there. He would go crazy." Huang Fuxian stared at Little Jing Kong. Fortunately, Little Jing Kong didn't touch his legs. After warming his hands, Little Jing Kong tried to help him sit up again. He didn't know if it was because of the excitement at that moment, but his body was not as stiff as before. He sat up. Little Jing Kong pushed the wheelchair in front of him. He grabbed the armrests of the wheelchair with both hands and gritted his teeth to sit on it. "Are you in pain?" Little Jing Kong asked him. This time, he was referring to his legs. Huang Fuxian's Adam's apple moved, and he said calmly, "Not really." Little Jing Kong bent down. Huang Fuxian thought he was going to lift up his trousers, and his face changed. Unexpectedly, Little Jing Kong just stopped above his broken leg and blew gently with its little mouth. "It won't hurt any more after I blow." There was no fear or disdain in his clean eyes. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found on the internet are available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642/826/10890624 HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 546. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, Please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels can be read for free. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. Master. Lien pushed the door open and entered. Why are you sitting by the window alone? The wind is so strong, you'll catch a cold. Huang Fuxian stared at the scenery outside the window and didn't answer Lien. Little Jing Kong was no longer in the room. There was no trace of him being here. Lien quickly walked over and closed the window across the table. Don't close it, Huang Fuxian said. Lien Er's hand paused in the middle of closing the window. She turned to look at her master in confusion. But it's cold. I'm not cold, Huang Fuxian said indifferently. Then, okay, I'll turn it down a little. Lien closed the window halfway. Huang Fuxian looked out through the gap in the window. His expression was indifferent and gloomy. It wasn't Lien Er's first day serving Princess Ning, so she wasn't surprised by Huang Fuxian's appearance. However, she still felt sorry for him. She looked at Huang Fuxian, whose blood had already dried up. She didn't ask how he did it because she had already heard that her family's young master had killed the 7th prince's dog. She said in a low voice, I'll go get some water for you to wash your face. Lien quickly fetched hot water. It took her 2 basins of water to wash Huang Fuxian's face. When she washed Huang Fuxian's hand, she was surprised to find that the back of his hand was scratched and there was a long cut. Her face turned pale. Master, you're injured. Why didn't you say anything? This blood on your hand, don't tell me it's yours? Of course, it wasn't all Huang Fuxian's. That cut couldn't have bled that much. Huang Fuxian frowned impatiently. You're so annoying. Get out, I don't want to see you. Lien said, I'll tell the princess to call the imperial physician. Huang Fuxian said, I don't want to see the imperial physician. Lien said worriedly, but, Huang Fuxian said coldly, if you say any more nonsense, get out. Lien could only shut her mouth resentfully. Perhaps it was because this wound caught Lien Er's attention. She looked at Huang Fuxian again. This time, she found a few faint finger marks on Huang Fuxian's cheek. Did the princess hit you? Lien asked weakly. Huang Fuxian ignored her. Lien lowered her head sadly and continued to wipe Huang Fuxian's hands. Sir, can you not make the princess angry in the future? It's hard for the princess to be alone. Huang Fuxian mocked. What's so difficult about her? Is it hard to raise a useless son like me? Lien was rendered speechless. After that, Lien didn't dare to say another word. She wiped the blood off Huang Fuxian's face, hands, and neck and helped him change his clothes. However, she had only helped Huang Fuxian change his shirt. Huang Fuxian had changed his pants himself. Ever since his crippled leg scared a servant to the point of vomiting, he no longer allowed anyone to change his pants for him. When Princess Ning arrived, Huang Fuxian was already dressed and sitting quietly in the wheelchair by the window. I heard that your hand was injured. Princess Ning walked over and closed the window. She wasn't Lien who had to listen to Huang Fuxian's orders. On the contrary, Huang Fuxian was her son. He should listen to her. Let me see, she said to Huang Fuxian. Huang Fuxian didn't move. Princess Ning picked up his left hand. Why didn't you say so earlier? It's such a long cut. Huang Fuxian turned his face away and ignored her. Princess Ning opened the wound medicine she had brought. She dabbed a little with her fingertip and applied it to the wound. After that, she applied it to his swollen cheek. Huang Fuxian tilted his head slightly and avoided her hand. You still don't like others touching you. Princess Ning's fingertips still landed on his cheek. After applying the medicine to Huang Fuxian, Princess Ning said, I'll come and apply it again before bed. I'm going to pay my respects to the Empress Dowager. Do you want to come with me? Huang Fuxian's lips curved and he sneered. Are you sure you want the Empress Dowager to see my swollen face? Princess Ning pinched her fingers and took a deep breath. She placed the wound medicine on the table and turned to leave. Rancho Palace. Xiao Hang had official business to attend to. After visiting his grand aunt, he left the palace. When he arrived, it was only him and little Jing Kong. Gu Jiao also came later. Little Jing Kong already had Jiao Jiao. How could he still remember his bad brother-in-law? He waved his little hand and sent his bad brother-in-law away. Then he began to uncover the roof tiles in Rancho Palace. As he grew older, his energy became more vigorous and his destructive power became stronger. However, Gu Jiao would basically fix it for him. When Princess Ning walked into Rancho Palace, she happened to see Gu Jiao repairing little Jing Kong's swing. Princess Ning had seen this swing many times. She just didn't ask about its origin. Prince Ning had 2 young princesses. Naturally, people who didn't know would think that the swing was prepared for the 2 young princesses. Jiao Jiao, is my swing ready? Little Jing Kong stood behind the swing and asked Gu Jiao cutely. Gu Jiao said, "Not so fast. The seat is worn and the rope needs to be reinforced." Little Jing Kong thought for a while. "Then I'll go find my grand aunt first." Gu Jiao nodded. "Okay. Grand aunt, I'm coming." Little Jing Kong waved his little arms and bounced away. Gu Jiao squatted down and seriously repaired little Jing Kong's swing. He didn't notice Princess Ning at the door. Princess Ning stopped in her tracks and stared at Gu Jiao without blinking. After entering the palace, Princess Ning wore the gorgeous clothes of a royal princess. Occasionally, she would put on makeup. She no longer wore plain clothes and didn't wear makeup like she did in the frontier fortress. Especially today, she even put on the begonia makeup on the scar on her left cheek. At first glance, the red birthmark on Gu Jiao's cheek was similar to her begonia makeup. It was just that the begonia makeup was done by hand. It was small and delicate, and the birthmark paled in comparison. Before Princess Ning got married, she was a lively and active princess. However, when she was quiet, Shi Yi had a quiet and gentle side. Gu Jiao's temperament was similar to Princess Ning Anne's when she was quiet. However, it was more otherworldly and cold. "Princess." A palace maid saw Princess Ning and bowed respectfully to her. Gu Jiao turned her head. Princess Ning smiled at her. Gu Jiao nodded. None of the palace servants present found it strange that Gu Jiao did not bow to Princess Ning in the imperial palace. Actually, in front of the emperor just now, Gu Jiao did not bow and scrape, and the emperor and eunuch Wei still looked as if they were used to it. Although Princess Ning traveled with Gu Jiao, they didn't interact much. After Gu Jiao fell asleep in the snow mountain, she was protected by Gu Chongqing on his back. When they returned to the army camp, he immediately isolated her. On the way back to the capital, Princess Ning sat in her carriage. Gu Jiao was at the front of the group, riding side by side with the Gu brothers. The 2 didn't know each other well. Princess Ning walked around the corridor and through the drooping flower gate to Empress Dowager Zhuang's bedroom. She couldn't help but look back at Gu Jiao. At that moment, a young eunuch rushed over, holding his finger. Miss Gu, my finger is broken." He was a young eunuch with no rank. "Let me see." Gu Jiao put down the tools in her hand and took out a clean handkerchief to hold his finger. She examined it carefully and said, "It's not broken. How did you do it?" Hearing that, the young eunuch was relieved and whispered, "Just now, I hit a walnut." The maids who were sweeping nearby covered their mouths and snickered. The young eunuch scratched his head in embarrassment. Gu Jiao said, "Wrap it in a handkerchief and ice it. If the swelling doesn't go down tomorrow, apply it again. 2 days later, apply a hot compress." The young eunuch quickly thanked her. "Thank you, Miss Gu. I will remember." Princess Ning looked away and continued to walk towards Empress Dowager Zhuang's bedroom. She didn't expect to meet the young eunuch again. The young eunuch was new and didn't know the rules. He rushed out from behind the corridor and almost bumped into Princess Ning N. Princess Ning didn't say anything, but he was scared out of his wits. He knelt on the ground and said, "Princess, spare me. Spare me." Princess Ning and said calmly, "Get up. I don't blame you." "Yes. Thank you, Princess Ning and." The young eunuch stood up, trembling. He didn't dare to look up to peek at his master's face. Princess Ning and said slowly, "I don't remember you being so scared in front of Dr. Gu. I don't eat people." The young eunuch said respectfully, "You are a princess. You are the Empress Dowager's favorite princess. I dare not offend you." Princess Ning and said, "Isn't Dr. Gu the favorite of my mother?" The young eunuch said, "Of course Miss Gu is, but what?" Princess Ning and looked at him and asked, "Miss Gu, she. The young eunuch stuttered and didn't know if he should say it. Princess Ning and smiled faintly, "She is more approachable than me." "You like her more than me?" The young eunuch trembled in fear. "I didn't mean that." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/10888965 HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com BQ mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 547. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that can't be found online are available here. Fortunately, Eunuch Qin came over at this time. "Little Deng, why are you still standing here? Didn't I tell you to smash walnuts?" Eunuch Qin scolded the little eunuch, then saluted Princess Ning An with cupped hands. "Princess, did this useless servant offend you?" Princess Ning An said gently, "No, you're called Little Deng, right? I like it very much." Little Deng was flattered. Eunuch Qin hurriedly said to Little Deng, "Quickly thank the princess for her favor." Yes. Little Deng knelt and kowtowed to Princess Ning An. "Thank you for your favor, princess." "You may leave," Princess Ning An said. "Yes." Little Deng retreated. Eunuch Qin smiled at Princess Ning An. "Princess, you've come a bit late today. Are there too many affairs at Iridescent Clouds Hall? If there aren't enough people to serve you, this servant can send you a few capable servants." Princess Ning An said politely, "No need. We don't need that many servants." Eunuch Qin said, "This servant watched the princess grow up. If the princess needs anything, there's no need to be polite with this servant." Princess Ning An faintly tugged at the corner of her lips. Princess Ning An used to be a lively little girl who liked to laugh, but all her happiness seemed to have disappeared after returning from the frontier fortress. Eunuch Qin rarely saw her smile. Even when she did smile, there was a sense of helplessness and bitterness. Eunuch Qin sighed inwardly. What a sin. If concubine Jing hadn't used the prince consort to set up a handsome trap, Princess Ning An wouldn't have fallen so low. Eunuch Qin. Princess Ning An suddenly spoke. "Princess, please give me your orders." Eunuch Qin said respectfully. Princess Ning An said bluntly, "Did you notice that Dr. Gu resembles me?" "I did. Their backs are very similar. Their temperaments are also somewhat similar." Then, Eunuch Qin smiled awkwardly. Princess Ning An finished for him. "Then, I have a scar on my face, and I always wear begonia makeup. She has a birthmark on her face, and it's very similar to my begonia makeup." Eunuch Qin laughed dryly. "Ah, that's how it is." Actually, Eunuch Qin didn't think it was very similar. It was just that at first glance, there was something on the left side of her face. Princess Ning and walked forward. Imperial Mother, how did you meet Dr. Gu? Eunuch Qin stepped forward to catch up. When the Empress Dowager and Miss Gu met, this old servant was in the palace and was not by the Empress Dowager's side. I'm afraid that you will have to personally ask the Empress Dowager about the situation. Eunuch Qin was indeed not by the Empress Dowager's side, but after that, Eunuch Qin had learned the ins and outs of the matter from the Empress Dowager. He didn't tell Princess Ning En because he felt that he shouldn't be the one to tell her. Princess Ning En said, if Dr. Gu asked Qin Gonggong how Imperial Mother met me for the first time, would Qin Gonggong also let Dr. Gu personally ask Imperial Mother? Eunuch Qin choked. Princess Ning En smiled faintly. I was just joking. Ah. Eunuch Qin secretly broke into a cold sweat. He thought that her joke was a bit too much. Princess Ning En said again, would Miss Gu pretend to be me to make Imperial Mother happy? Eunuch Qin choked again. He smiled and said, Princess, you are of noble birth. How can Miss Gu really be like you? She can't pretend to be you, and she can't pretend to be you. Princess Ning En said softly, it seems that she can't. I thought that Imperial Mother spoiled her so much because she saw the shadow of my past in her. Eunuch Qin, Princess, don't tell this servant everything that's in your heart. This makes this servant feel very pressured. Fortunately, Princess Ning En didn't say anything that would make Eunuch Qin speechless for the rest of the journey. Eunuch Qin sent Princess Ning En to Empress Dowager Zhuang's bedchamber. Little Jing Kong couldn't stay any longer. He didn't sit for long in his grey tant's bedchamber before he ran out of sight. At this time, the bedchamber was exceptionally quiet. Eunuch Qin pushed open the half-closed door. A little palace maid walked out quietly. She bowed to the two and whispered, Princess, Eunuch Qin, Empress Dowager Zhuang is resting. Princess Ning En asked worriedly, so early? Is Imperial Mother not feeling well? The little palace maid shook her head. Dr. Gu just checked the Empress Dowager Zhuang's pulse. She's fine. She's just tired. Princess Ning An's expression cleared a little. She nodded and said, then let Imperial Mother rest well. I won't disturb her. I'll come back tomorrow. The little palace maid curtsied. See you off, Princess. Princess Ning En turned and left Rancho Palace. On the other side, Gu Jiao finished fixing the swing and went to the bedchamber to say goodbye to Empress Dowager Zhuang. Princess Ning En looked back and saw Gu Jiao enter Empress Dowager Zhuang's bedchamber as if there was no one around. She didn't need to report and wasn't stopped. Eunuch Qin looked at Princess Ning En and then looked at Gu Jiao who just entered the bedchamber. He was embarrassed. He didn't know how to explain that he didn't treat the two masters differently. It was the Empress Dowager who didn't use the palace rules to restrict Miss Gu. Miss Gu was the same here as she was in Bisui Alley. When she was with Miss Gu, Empress Dowager Zhuang wasn't the powerful Empress Dowager. She was just a grand aunt in Bisui Alley. Unlike when she met Ning En was the princess and she was the empress. The rules were set from the beginning. Princess Ning En murmured, it seems that Imperial Mother really loves Dr. Gu. Eunuch Qin hurriedly said, the Empress Dowager loves you the most. You follow the rules. Dr. Gu grew up in the countryside and doesn't understand some palace rules. The Empress Dowager is old and doesn't like to argue with little girls. Princess Ning En smiled faintly. Eunuch Qin doesn't need to rush to explain. I won't make things difficult for her. Eunuch Qin smiled. That's right, that's right. You're a princess. You're magnanimous and won't argue with a little girl. Princess Ning En nodded. Eunuch Qin, please. Eunuch Qin bowed. Princess, take care. After Princess Ning En disappeared into the night, Eunuch Qin returned to the small pond where he raised the tortoises. Empress Dowager Zhuang had been extremely benevolent to him. She even dug a pond for him to raise tortoises. In the palace, no one's mouth could be trusted. If he had anything on his mind, he would only tell this pond of little tortoises. He touched the little tortoise on the edge and sighed. Why do I feel that the princess is a little jealous of Miss Gu? He had a tortoise on his left hand. Miss Gu. He had a tortoise on his right hand. Princess Ning and they were all little masters that he had to be loyal to. He had to be fair and not be partial to anyone. He looked at the tortoise on his right hand. I watched you grow up. When you peed your pants, I changed your clothes for you. He looked at the tortoise on his left hand. You saved the Empress Dowager's life. The Empress Dowager doesn't have to live so tirelessly with you. You take care of everything for the Empress Dowager. He looked at the tortoise on his right hand. Since you were young, the Empress Dowager loved you the most. She didn't let you suffer any grievances. He looked at the tortoise on his left hand. Thank you for protecting the Empress Dowager so well. You let the old lady have someone to rely on. Alas, as a loyal servant, he should be more loyal to Princess Ning En, who he had brought up single-handedly. But why did he like the tortoise on his left hand more? Jiao Jiao. On the carriage back, little Jing Kong sat beside Gu Jiao obediently and pulled Gu Jiao's hand. Aren't you sleepy? Gu Jiao held his little hand. Little Jing Kong shook his head. Gu Jiao said, That's strange. You didn't take a nap today, but you aren't sleepy. Are you scared by the little dog? No. The little dog was very pitiful, but little Jing Kong was not a child who was easily frightened. He opened his dark eyes wide, and his long eyelashes flickered. He pointed at the big trees by the roadside and said, Jiao Jiao, the branches of those trees are broken. Are they in pain? Gu Jiao thought for a while. Maybe, but their branches will grow back in spring. Then, what about Hua Hua? Little Jing Kong asked again, Can Hua Hua grow back even if it's cut off? Yes. Gu Jiao nodded. Little Jing Kong stretched out his little head and shook it. What about my little head? Can it grow back too? Gu Jiao's delicate body trembled. That's not possible. Oh. Little Jing Kong sat upright again. He shook his pair of short legs. What about legs? Jiao Jiao? If there are no legs, can they grow back like branches? Gu Jiao touched his little head. It was a pity, but she had to tell him cruelly, They can't grow back. Little Jing Kong lowered his head. Oh. He had just met Huang Fu Xian, and he asked such a question. Of course, he was not speaking without thinking. Her Jing Kong was the warmest child in the world. Gu Jiao rubbed his little head. Although they can't grow back, they can stand up again with the help of external forces. Little Jing Kong's dim eyes suddenly brightened. Really? Can he really stand up again? Gu Jiao curved her lips. Yes, as long as he works hard enough. Digression, I just took a look, and it's almost over 5,000 votes. I'm looking for a wave of monthly votes. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that you can't find online are available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428886/1088888736. HTML Genius remembered the website address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 548. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels that can't be found on the internet. This matter seems easy from her mouth, but it's very difficult to actually implement it. If a person who lost his legs wants to stand up, he must make a pair of prosthetics suitable for himself. Prosthetics are not the most difficult part. The most difficult part is the socket. At present, there is no suitable material for the socket in the small medicine box. After Xiao Hang visited Empress Dowager Zhuang, he went directly out of the palace. He didn't go back to Bisui Alley, but went to the clinic first. At this time, it was already late at night. The smell of food floated out of the clinic. The girls' school next door hasn't started yet, so it was still deserted. The business of the clinic was good, so people came and went. Xiao Hang entered the lobby and asked the second boss behind the counter, "Is Xing Darren still here?" "Yes, yes," the second boss said. He already knew that Xing Darren turned out to be the second-rank minister of the Ministry of Justice. He suddenly felt honored to see him. Xiao Hang was not a doctor, so he didn't know much about the treatment process. Therefore, he didn't think it was strange that Minister of the Ministry of Justice was still here. He went up to the second floor and saw Minister Xing and Dr. Song in the innermost room. Minister Xing's arm has already been reset by Dr. Song. The reason why he hasn't left yet was because Dr. Song found other problems with him. After Dr. Song carefully checked his pulse, he gave him a prescription. He asked him if he wanted to take it back or boil it into a pill. The latter cost more money, but it was less troublesome. With Minister Xing's family background, he doesn't lack money, so he asked the medicine boy to boil it. "Is it serious?" Xiao Hang asked Dr. Song after learning about the situation. Dr. Song said, "The problem was discovered early. It's not a big problem. In the future, pay more attention to your diet and take more walks. The most important thing is," speaking of this, Dr. Song looked at Minister Xing seriously, "avoid drinking." Minister Xing cleared his throat in embarrassment. "Can't I drink even a drop?" He had such a hobby. "Not even a drop," Dr. Song said without any refutation. "Alas." Xing Shongshu sighed helplessly. "I've been drinking it for half my life. Isn't it too cruel to suddenly not let me drink a single drop?" Xiao Hang persuaded, "Song Dafu is also thinking for Darren." Minister Xing waved his hand dejectedly. "Alas, all right, I won't drink it." Dr. Song looked at him and said, "Don't say that you don't want to drink it. Go back and drink it secretly. I will know if you drink it or not the next time I check your pulse." This was Gu Jiao's catchphrase. "I would know if you did it or not." The doctors in the clinic had all learned it, and it was quite useful for patients. Minister Xing choked and thought to himself, "Can I not come to your clinic next time?" Dr. Song saw that Xiao Hang had something to say to Xing Shongshu. After telling him all the precautions, he said, "I'll go and see how the pills are doing." Then, he turned around and went downstairs. Minister Xing pointed at the table opposite him. "Lu Lang, pour me some water." Xiao Hang poured a cup of hot tea for Minister Xing. Minister Xing drank a large cup in one breath. Again, another cup. After drinking a total of 3 cups, Minister Xing felt that his throat was not so dry. "Am I the one talking, or is he the one talking?" Minister Xing thought of being nagged by Dr. Song for the whole afternoon. His head hurt. Xiao Hang didn't answer this question. Minister Xing shook his head and threw Dr. Song to the back of his mind. Then, he talked to Xiao Hang about business. "You went out just now, what did you find out?" "Shenla House's Hua Kuei is not dead." On the way here, Xiao Hang had already thought about what information he could say and what information he couldn't say. Minister Xing was shocked. "What? That girl named Mo Chenxue is not dead? Then why did they all say?" Xiao Hang speculated, the maidservants of Shenla House should have recognized the wrong person. As for Hua Xiao, she should be acting. Minister Xing frowned. "Deliberately? So, the two of them are in the same group?" Xiao Hang, Minister Xing slapped his thigh. "I said that there is something wrong with Shenla House. They cooperated to put on such a play. What's their purpose? To deal with me, to deal with Gu Jiao. This trap was set up for him, and it was also set up for Gu Jiao. The mastermind behind the scenes could be Immortal Music House, or it could be some other power." Xiao Heng didn't tell Minister Xing about this for the time being. Minister Xing asked, "Where is that Hua Kuei?" Xiao Heng said, "In the medical center." Medical center. Minister Xing lifted the quilt and got out of bed. "Which room?" Xiao Heng said, "In a wing room in the backyard." She was seriously injured at that time and was picked up by the doctor in the medical center. She is an important witness, so we shouldn't alert the enemy for the time being. Minister Xing was puzzled. Why was she picked up by the doctor in the medical center? Did she do it on purpose? Is there something wrong with this medical center too? As expected of someone from the Ministry of Justice, his logical reasoning was too strong. However, Xiao Heng didn't intend to tell him that Mo Qianxue came for Gu Jiao. It wasn't that he didn't trust Minister Xing's character, but that the time wasn't right. Now was definitely not the best time to investigate Mo Qianxue. Xiao Heng said without changing his expression, "There is nothing wrong with the medical center, but it is too famous. Even you, Minister Xing, came here. Other nobles will also come here when they have a headache or fever. Maybe she is waiting for someone here." Minister Xing said thoughtfully, "What you said makes sense. Or maybe she just wants to fake her death to hide her identity, so that she can act in secret. After all, who would suspect a dead person? Then I am puzzled, is the owner of Xianle House dead or not? If he is not dead, where is he? If he is dead, who are they working for? There is also a young owner," Xiao Heng thought in his heart. Xiao Heng said, "My wife also works in this medical center. I will tell her later and ask her to send someone to keep an eye on Mo Qianxue. As long as we keep an eye on her, we can always find some clues." Minister Xing thought about it and said, "Okay, we will do as you say. Tell your wife to be careful. Mo Qianxue is good at fighting." Xiao Heng nodded. "I know." Minister Xing asked again, "Who else knows about this except you?" Empress Dowager. In the bedroom of Ranshou Palace, Eunuch Qin called Empress Dowager Zhuang softly, who was sitting by the window. Empress Dowager Zhuang came back to herself and lightly pinched the 2 candied fruits on the plate. "What's the matter?" Little Jing Kong was good at complaining, but whenever Empress Dowager Zhuang ate candied fruits, he was always the first one to complain to Gu Jiao. However, the little guy also felt Empress Dowager Zhuang's low mood and secretly gave her 2 candied fruits. Eunuch Qin said, "Nothing. Before Miss Gu left, she asked me to make some ginseng soup for you. When the soup is ready, I will serve it to you. Bring it up." Empress Dowager Zhuang said indifferently. Eunuch Qin turned around and took the ginseng soup from the tray carried by the little eunuch. He walked over and gently put it on Empress Dowager Zhuang's table. Empress Dowager Zhuang did not move. Eunuch Qin smiled. "It is not hot. Drink it while it is hot. It will be cold soon." Empress Dowager Zhuang lazily took a sip of the soup. Eunuch Qin said embarrassedly, "Miss Gu asked me to reduce the salt. Will it be a bit bad?" Empress Dowager Zhuang snorted, I have not eaten Liolong's food. I am not qualified to say it is bad." Eunuch Qin, but to be honest, it was really bad. If she had not been poisoned by Xiao Heng's cooking skills, Empress Dowager Zhuang would not drink it. Although Empress Dowager Zhuang disliked it, she still forced herself to drink it. Eunuch Qin smiled from the bottom of his heart. Sure enough, no matter how bad the food was, as long as it was Miss Gu's order, the Empress Dowager would accept it. "You were there when Ning An was young, right?" Empress Dowager Zhuang suddenly asked. Qin Gonggong didn't know how the topic had turned to Princess Ning An. He stilled and replied, "Yes, yes. When the Empress Dowager just entered the palace, this old servant came to serve you. Princess Ning An was only born a few years later." Empress Dowager Zhuang looked out the window at the crabapple tree covered with a layer of snow and said, "Do you remember Ning An's temperament when she was young?" "Yes, yes." Eunuch Qin said as if he was familiar with her. "She was sweet, lively, active, and couldn't calm down. Otherwise, how could she have bumped into your phoenix carriage in the Imperial Garden?" Empress Dowager Zhuang said indifferently, "It was concubine Jing's plan. How could she have bumped into my carriage? It was a pity that I was young and did not understand the dangers of the palace. I mistook her for a friend." Eunuch Qin observed her expression and asked, "Do you regret it, Empress Dowager?" Empress Dowager Zhuang tapped the table. Eunuch Qin's sharp eyes poured a cup of hot tea. Empress Dowager Zhuang picked up the cup. What do you regret? Do you regret befriending concubine Jing or treating her 2 children well? His Majesty was not concubine Jing's flesh and blood, but since he was under her name, he was indeed her child. Empress Dowager Zhuang continued, there is nothing to regret. The Emperor and Ning and were indeed doted on when they were young. I lost my son, and it was thanks to them that I was able to walk out of the shadows. Rather than saying that it was concubine Jing's plan, it was better to say that we each took what we needed. Then now you. What did she mean by saying all this? Eunuch Qin was a bit confused about what Empress Dowager Zhuang was doing. He felt that something was strange. First, Princess Ning and was strange. Now, the Empress Dowager was strange as well. Empress Dowager Zhuang took a sip of tea and said, Ning and is a paper tiger. Usually, she relies on me to support her and is fearless. But in reality, she is very timid. She is afraid of the dark, of thunder, of pain, and of death. At the mention of this, Eunuch Qin seemed to see little Ning and crying in front of him. He smiled and said, Princess Ning and has to light a lamp when she sleeps. This habit is the same as His Majesty. Both siblings are afraid of the dark. Empress Dowager Zhuang looked at little Jiao, who was flapping her wings and sweeping away the snow on the crabapple tree. She said, but one night she suddenly became fearless. I remember very clearly that it was when I was banished to the cold palace by the late emperor. You were punished to do hard labor in the dungeon and weren't by my side. I was sick for a few days. That night, there was a thunderstorm, and Ningen came to the cold palace alone to see me. There was such a thing. Eunuch Qin was surprised. Empress Dowager Zhuang continued to drink the tea in her hand and said what was in her heart. Usually, it is the 2 siblings together. If only one person came, it would be Hong-er. So I was very surprised at the time. I asked her why she came. She said, Mother, I came to see you. You are sick. I didn't tell anyone that I was sick. I didn't know how this child knew, so I asked her, Are you not afraid of the dark? She said, No. Eunuch Qin smiled and said, The princess is sincere to you. For you, she doesn't even care about being afraid. Little Joe accidentally fell down while sweeping the snow. It flapped twice in the snow as if it was wronged. It flew over and squatted down by Empress Dowager Zhuang's hand. It seemed to be waiting for Empress Dowager Zhuang to touch its feathers. Empress Dowager Zhuang pushed little Jiao away with a cup with a look of disgust. Little Jiao, who was rejected, Empress Dowager Zhuang said lightly, I also think so. So I was really moved. I swore in my heart that I would love this child for the rest of my life. The more Eunuch Qin listened, the more confused he became. There was nothing wrong with the Empress Dowager's words, but the Empress Dowager's expression didn't seem right. Did Xiao Darren come over today and say something to the Empress Dowager? Xiao Hang sent Minister Xing to the carriage to return to the residence before heading back to Jishui Alley. The alley was filled with the sounds of little Jing Kong. Are you that excited? Xiao Hang shook his head and stepped over the threshold. When he entered the room, he found that Gu Chongqing and Gu Changfeng had come over. Gu Chongqing came to buy hair growth medicine, and Gu Changfeng came to see his younger brother and sister. Gu Chongqing and Gu Zhao went to the frontier fortress, leaving Gu Yen alone here. Baby Yen expressed that he was very angry, but he couldn't bear to be angry at Gu Zhao. So Gu Chongqing endured all of his little temper. Gu Chongqing took Gu Yen to ride a horse and accompanied Gu Yen to shoot arrows. Finally, he managed to coax Gu Yen. Then came Gu Xiaobao. When Gu Xiaobao was born, Gu Chongqing wasn't in the capital. After the war broke out, he rushed to the frontier without stopping. So today was the first time he met Gu Xiaobao. However, Gu Xiaobao seemed to be very afraid of him. His little body trembled in his arms. Gu Chengfeng rarely saw his big brother in a good show. He laughed mockingly. Big brother, you can't do it. Xiaobao doesn't like you. Gu Chongqing said coldly, if you can do it, then do it. I'll do it. Gu Chengfeng took Gu Xiaobao without any pressure. As expected, Gu Xiaobao stopped trembling. Gu Chongqing's face darkened. Haha. I knew it. Gu Chengfeng laughed loudly. The next second, he couldn't laugh anymore. Because Gu Xiaobao suddenly burrowed into his arms and opened his mouth to suck on his. Gu Chengfeng shuddered. I'm not a nanny. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642-826/1088663343. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhhbqg.com. Chapter 549. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel was updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels were free to read. Novels with a deeper meaning that couldn't be found online were all available here. For the entire night, whenever Gu Chengfeng hugged Gu Xiaobao would snuggle into his arms and drink milk. Gu Chengfeng, who had just ridiculed his eldest brother, finally understood what it meant to be, a man can't be arrogant, or he'll get stabbed. The Gu brothers had dinner in Bisui Alley before returning home. Before they left, Gu Chongqing taught little Jing Kong a set of boxing techniques. Little Jing Kong learned with relish and practiced tirelessly in the backyard. He didn't even go to take a bath when Gu Chongqing asked him to. Forget it, let him play for a while. There's no school tomorrow anyway. Gu Jiao said to Yu Ye. Yu Ye said, then I'll send the hot water to Xiaoshun and Xiaoshun's room first so that Xiaoshun can take a bath first. The order of bathing at home was from young to old. Gu Xiaobao had already taken a bath. Go ahead. Gu Jiao said. Yu Ye went to take the hot water. Gu Jiao went to the kitchen to help Nanny Fong tidy up, but Nanny Fong didn't let her do it. I'm not so old that I can't move. I'm doing this and that all day long. I'm just doing nothing. This wasn't an exaggeration. Everyone in the family was lazy. Even Gu Yan, who was the laziest, knew to peel corn and water the vegetable fields. Most of the chores at home had been shared, so Nanny Fong really wasn't tired at all. Gu Jiao didn't insist on going to the kitchen. She went back to the east room to pack up. She still had to go to the medical center later, so she wanted to say goodbye to her family before she left. Everyone else saw Xiao Hang, but he was neither in the study nor in the west room. Gu Jiao said, "That's strange, where did he go?" Xiao Hang went next door. In fact, Gu Chongqing was there as well. It was impossible for Gu Chongqing to not be alarmed when such a big thing happened at Immortal Music House. After Gu Chengfeng got on the carriage to return to the residence, he lied to Gu Chengfeng that he was going to the military camp, but in fact, he was going next door. Lu Quan, go and guard outside. Don't let anyone hear you. The old chancellor said to Lu Quan. Yes, master. Lu Quan stood guard at the door. The three of them sat down in the study. The old chancellor said, Speak, what is it? Gu Chongqing glanced at Xiao Hang and said, Something happened at Immortal Music House. Is there any news from the Ministry of Justice? Yes. Xiao Hang was even more honest with Gu Chongqing than Xing Shongshu. Other than the fact that Mo Qianxue mistook him for someone else, he almost told Gu Chongqing everything, including the young master of Immortal Music House. He didn't say that Mo Qianxue was the one who told him about young master. Gu Chongqing thought that he found out through the means of the Ministry of Justice. Gu Chongqing was silent. He really didn't expect there to be such a shocking thing. I thought it was just a rumor. What is the purpose of Immortal Music House? Xiao Hang thought seriously and said, "The ultimate purpose is not clear, but Jiao Jiao seems to be blocking the path of young master of Immortal Music House." Immortal Music House made a move on Jiao Jiao. Gu Chongqing's face suddenly became cold. Xiao Hang said, "However, Immortal Music House made a mistake this time. The people they sent can't make a move on Jiao Jiao. For the time being, there is no need to worry about Jiao Jiao." Gu Chongqing's eyes were still cold. "Is there anything I can help with?" Xiao Hang said, "Investigate the background of young master of Immortal Music House. All of her past, all of the people she knows, all of the things she has done. The more detailed, the better. Also, investigate in secret. Don't let anyone find out." Gu Chongqing pondered for a moment and said, "I will tell His Majesty that I will leave the capital to comfort the families of the soldiers who died in the line of duty in the Gu army." The old chancellor nodded approvingly. This was a good reason. After Gu Chongqing left, the old chancellor said to Xiao Hang, "Is there anything you haven't said?" The old chancellor knew Xiao Hang too well. Others couldn't see through Xiao Hang's emotions, but he wouldn't be so easily fooled. After all, Xiao Hang's black-bellied skills were taught by him. That group of people might be coming. That group of people? The old chancellor twisted his white brows and tried hard to think about who Xiao Hang called that group of people. After a while, he frowned. "You mean, the people of Yen Kingdom?" Xiao Hang nodded slowly. He didn't block the path of the young master of Immortal Music House. If he was the young master of Immortal Music House, he would definitely try to subdue him. If he couldn't subdue him, then it wouldn't be too late to kill him. The one who wanted his life must be someone else. For him to sit in his current position, there were many people who were jealous of him, but there were too few who had the guts to touch him and the strength to enter the eyes of Immortal Music House. It could be said that there were almost none in the entire Zhao country. Didn't Grand Tutor Zhuang want to touch him? But Grand Tutor Zhuang didn't have the guts to challenge Empress Dowager Zhuang's bottom line. At most, Grand Tutor Zhuang used a bit of power to suppress him. Those who weren't as strong as Grand Tutor Zhuang, Immortal Music House looked down on them. Those who were favored by Immortal Music House had no enmity with Xiao Hang. After thinking about it, there was only one last possibility left. The old chancellor heaved a long sigh. "Alas, now I finally understand why Princess Xinyang would rather let you wander among the common people and ignore you than bring you back to the capital. The power of Shangguan wasn't something that ordinary people could contend against. They hid it so well, but the other party still smelled Xiao Heng's scent." The old chancellor said earnestly, "Princess Xinyang isn't in the capital these days, so you have to be more careful." Xiao Heng said, "For the time being, they don't have the guts to touch me in the capital. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made such a big scheme to lure him out of the city." There was a problem that the old chancellor couldn't figure out. The power of Shangguan wants to kill you, but they don't dare to do it too openly. What are they afraid of? Marquis Xianping? The royal family of Zhao country? The old chancellor carefully analyzed the course of events and found that those people were becoming more and more careful. At first, when they assassinated Xiao Heng's mother, they dared to sneak into Marquis Xianping's residence. More than 10 years later, when they assassinated Xiao Hang, they only dared to borrow Prince Ning's hand. As for now, they didn't even dare to act rashly in the capital. There must be some reason behind this. The old chancellor said thoughtfully, "I always feel that your mother isn't a female slave." Xiao Hang didn't have this knot in his heart, whose blood flowed in his body. To Jiao Jiao and his family, he was Xiao Hang. He didn't care about his own situation and said, "It's not important. What's important now is to solve the big problem of Immortal Music House." The old chancellor hesitated for a moment and asked, "Did you tell Zhuang Jince about Immortal Music House? What's her attitude? Is she partial to Jiao Jiao or partial to that person?" The next day, at the first glimmer of dawn, Ning woke up early. She first went to Huang Fu Xian's room. Huang Fu Xian was still sleeping. She looked at the injuries on his cheek and the back of his hand and took out the golden sore medicine from the drawer to apply some on him. The golden sore medicine seemed to be different from the bottle she gave, but she didn't care too much about it. After that, She went to Rancho Palace to pay respects to Empress Dowager Zhuang and accompanied her for breakfast. Empress Dowager Zhuang didn't need to attend morning court now, so she had a lot of free time. While Empress Dowager Zhuang was washing up, Princess Ning quietly waited in Empress Dowager Zhuang's bedroom. After a while, someone from the Imperial Household Department came and handed a tray covered with a silk cloth to Eunuch Qin. Eunuch Qin then sent the tray to Empress Dowager Zhuang's bedroom. "What is this?" Princess Ning asked softly. "It's something sent by the Imperial Household Department." Eunuch Qin said. "Let me see." Princess Ning took away the silk cloth covering it. She saw that on the tray was an imperial purple gold token, engraved with the 2 words "Protector of the Country." Next to the token was a purple gold phoenix crown. "This is the token and phoenix crown of the Protector Princess?" Princess Ning was shocked speechless by this exquisite and peerless object. Not everyone could have the title of Protector of the Country. It could be said that no princess in this dynasty could bear this title. And now, Princess Ning was going to be crowned with the title of Protector Princess. How could this not make Ning happy? The calmness she had tempered in the frontier fortress completely disappeared at this moment. She excitedly reached out, picked up the phoenix crown, and put it on her head. Then she grabbed the token on the tray and turned to look at herself in the bronze mirror. However, before she could see her majestic appearance, a figure wearing a royal blue phoenix robe walked over with a majestic aura. The owner of the figure took off the phoenix crown on her head. Everything happened so fast that Princess Ning didn't have time to react. She sat in the chair, her body and hair violently pulled. The originally exquisite bun was scattered. There was no pity in Empress Dowager Zhuang's eyes. Empress Dowager Zhuang looked down at her condescendingly, a powerful aura bursting out. "This is something that I Jia prepared for Jiao Jiao. Who gave you the courage to touch it?" Princess Ning looked at Empress Dowager Zhuang in disbelief. She didn't know whether to be surprised by Empress Dowager Zhuang's appearance or her words. Clearly yesterday, how come today? This attitude really caught her off guard. Ning looked at Empress Dowager Zhuang in shock and hurt. "Mother." Empress Dowager Zhuang snatched the Protector of the Country token from her hand and said with a cold face, "Don't call Ijia mother. You don't deserve it." The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642/826/10886526. HTML Genius remembers this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 550. The latest chapter isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are available here. Ning wasn't the only one who was stunned by this sudden change. Even Eunuch Qin, who had just cut a plate of fresh fruits, was stunned. What was going on? Why did mother and daughter suddenly turn against each other? To be exact, it was the Empress Dowager who turned against Princess Ning. The Empress Dowager had watched Princess Ning grow up, and she was no different from her own daughter. Princess Ning looked at Empress Dowager Zhuang as if she had been struck by lightning. Confusion, surprise, fear, and many other emotions flashed through her eyes. Just as her emotions gradually gathered and something seemed to be about to come out of her mind, her tears fell first. "Imperial Mother, this son doesn't know what wrong this son has done to make Imperial Mother so angry?" Empress Dowager Zhuang looked at her coldly. "You don't know? Do you really not know, or are you pretending not to know?" Princess Ning's eyes flickered slightly. Empress Dowager Zhuang was unable to restrain her anger. Let me ask you, did you secretly pay respects to your mother? Princess Ning opened her mouth, and the flickering light in her eyes slowly settled down. She slowly relaxed her body, then stood up and took a step back. Kneeling in front of Empress Dowager Zhuang, she lowered her head and said, "Please forgive me, mother." Empress Dowager Zhuang clenched her fingers and looked at her with disappointment. "So you admit it?" Princess Ning admitted in a low voice, "I did go to the nunnery, and I did remember mother there." Eunuch Qin sighed inwardly. He knew about this as well. It was the night Princess Ning returned to the palace. She secretly went to the nunnery where old concubine Jing used to live and stayed there for an hour before coming out. No matter what, concubine Jing was Princess Ning's birth mother. It was reasonable for Princess Ning to remember her. Didn't the Empress Dowager know about it early on? Didn't she say anything? Why did she suddenly bring up old scores today? Empress Dowager Zhuang's body seemed to tremble slightly from her suppressed anger. If I hadn't heard someone mention it last night, I wouldn't have known that you were constantly thinking about concubine Jing while calling her mother. Do you really not know how much I hate her? Ning kowtowed and placed his hands on the cold ground, his forehead pressed against the back of his hands. This son knows his mistake. Mother, please calm down. Eunuch Qin was even more confused. Did the Empress Dowager know the night Princess Ning went to the nunnery? How could he tell Princess Ning that he had just heard about it? Empress Dowager Zhuang's tone was cold. Since you want to recognize that poisonous woman as your mother, then don't recognize me as your mother. After saying that, she flicked her sleeves and left. Eunuch Qin didn't dare to stop her. It wasn't until she was far away that Eunuch Qin stepped into the bedchamber. He placed the fruit platter on the table and helped Princess Ning up with his other hand. Princess Ning looked at Eunuch Qin, her eyes full of hesitation and guilt. Eunuch Qin. Alas. Eunuch Qin sighed again. So many things have happened. Can't the princess see how deeply concubine Jing hurt the Empress Dowager? She caused the Empress Dowager to fall out with His Majesty and took away the only princess the Empress Dowager loved. You are concubine Jing's own flesh and blood. I can understand that you can't hate her, but to remember her and pay respects to her. Aren't you throwing the Empress Dowager's heart into a millstone? Princess Ning blamed herself. Eunuch Qin, I know I was wrong. Eunuch Qin said, forget it. The Empress Dowager was angry because she loved you too much. If it was someone else paying respects to concubine Jing, the Empress Dowager probably wouldn't care. You know the Empress Dowager's temperament. People she doesn't care about can never hurt her heart. Princess Ning said, what should I do to make mother forgive me? Eunuch Qin paused. The Empress Dowager is angry now. You should avoid her for now. Once she's calmed down, you can find a way to ask for her forgiveness. Princess Ning lowered her eyes. It seems that's the only way now. I can't be filial in front of mother. I'll have to trouble you to take care of her for me. Eunuch Qin smiled. I will. Don't worry, princess. Princess Ning said softly, then I'll leave first. I'll see you out. There's no need. Eunuch Qin should go serve mother. Yes. Eunuch Qin agreed. Watching Princess Ning's receding figure, Eunuch Qin suddenly said, Princess. Is there something else, Eunuch Qin? Princess Ning looked back at Eunuch Qin. Eunuch Qin said sincerely, the Empress Dowager deliberately used Miss Gu to anger you. Princess, please don't take it to heart. Princess Ning was stunned. Is that so? I thought. Imperial Mother really prepared those things for Dr. Gu? Eunuch Qin smiled and said, I serve the Empress Dowager. How can I not know who those things are made for? Princess Ning revealed a knowing smile. It was as if spring had returned to the earth. Eunuch Qin, thank you. Eunuch Qin smiled and bowed. Take care, Princess. Princess Ning left Rancho Palace. Eunuch Qin's smile disappeared. How would I know who those things are for? But he understood that he shouldn't draw any hatred for Jiao Jiao. Eunuch Qin went to the study. Empress Dowager Zhuang was sitting calmly on a chair. In front of her was the protector's token and the purple and gold phoenix crown. Empress Dowager. Eunuch Qin honestly recounted his conversation with Princess Ning and without missing a word. This old servant doesn't know if it's right or not. He had served the Empress Dowager for so many years. The Empress Dowager didn't inform him of everything in advance. As a capable confidant, he couldn't drag his master down under any circumstances. What should be said, what shouldn't be said, what should be dealt with, he handled it clearly. In particular, he did an excellent job of erasing Gu Jiaojiao's hatred. There was a tacit understanding between Empress Dowager Zhuang and Eunuch Qin. She knew that if she stabbed the sword, Eunuch Qin could pull it back and put it back into the scabbard. Eunuch Qin was puzzled. But Empress Dowager, why did you do this? Empress Dowager Zhuang said lightly, when it's time for you to know, I will tell you. Eunuch Qin replied, yes. As the saying went, don't guess the emperor's intentions. But the cruel thing was that if you couldn't guess the emperor's intentions, you might not be able to survive in the palace. Eunuch Qin thought about it carefully. Empress Dowager Zhuang didn't tell him. Was it because she didn't trust him enough, or was it because she didn't want to talk about it? He thought it was the latter. It was too painful. Every time it was mentioned, it was like 1,000 arrows piercing through the heart. Empress Dowager Zhuang could wrap herself up in cold armor, but the heart under the armor was no different from a normal person's heart. It could be hurt and hurt. But the Empress Dowager had too many burdens on her shoulders. She couldn't wallow in her pain and could only endure it and move forward. Empress Dowager Zhuang said, keep an eye on her and find out what she took from the nunnery that night. Eunuch Qin was shocked. What? Princess Ning and took something from the nunnery? Didn't she go to pay respects to concubine Jing? Could it be that her act of paying respects to the dead was fake and taking something was real? Then it would explain why she went to the nunnery where concubine Jing lived, despite knowing that Empress Dowager Zhuang hated concubine Jing. Of course, the information revealed by this sentence wasn't as simple as Princess Ning and going to the nunnery to take something. It also revealed why Princess Ning and took it and why the Empress Dowager wanted to investigate. If it was an ordinary relic, the Empress Dowager didn't need to investigate. If it wasn't an ordinary relic, then it was a big deal. Eunuch Qin was someone who had followed Empress Dowager Zhuang through the wind and waves. After experiencing so many storms, his mental endurance had naturally become stronger. What could startle him? Right. But at this moment, he couldn't help but want to curse. I've lived long enough to see it. On the other side, little Jing Kong entered the palace again. He came by himself again this time. He sat in Lu Quan's carriage. He came to find Huang Fu Xian. Because of the conflict with Huang Fu Xian, his grand-aunt didn't allow him to go to Bixia Hall again. So he could only go there secretly. Huang Fu Xian sat by the window in a daze. Lien was tidying up his clothes in his room. Lien looked at him strangely and thought, ever since the young master was injured that day, he liked to stare at the window in a daze. It's such a cold day. Isn't he afraid of freezing? He was obviously a person who was afraid of the cold. Young master, Lien asked him, do you want me to close the window a little? No need. Huang Fu Xian said indifferently. Then I'll pour you a cup of hot tea. Lien put down the half-folded clothes and poured a cup of hot brown sugar ginger tea. Then she turned and walked toward Huang Fu Xian. At this moment, a small round head suddenly popped out of the window. Huang Fu Xian's eyes trembled. He reached out his hand and pressed the little round head down. Lien, what's wrong, young master? Huang Fu Xian said calmly, I'm hungry. Hurry up and get me something to eat. Lien looked at the cup in her hand. Then this tea, Huang Fu Xian said impatiently. I don't want to drink it. Pour it out. Huang Fu Xian was always so temperamental. Lien didn't find it strange and didn't suspect anything. She put down the ginger tea and walked out of the room. After making sure that she was far away, Huang Fuxian took back his hand that was pressing down on a certain someone's head. The small mushroom head really grew out like a mushroom. Little brother. Little Jing Kong tilted his head to kill. Cute. Huang Fuxian looked away. So ugly. Little Jing Kong looked up and down and picked up little Jiao, who was playing with snow on the ground, and said regretfully, "Little brother said you're ugly." Little Jiao, who took the blame for no reason. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that can't be found online are available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964288433352. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.